We're live. Okay. In 3, 2, 1. We do have a quorum available at this point. Let's see here. The Zoom 2-page, 3-page thing has kind of gone the way of the dodo, thank God. But needless to say, this meeting is a hybrid meeting that's both being recorded by way of Zoom and is live as well too at 133 Pleasant. I think you all know the game rules of engagement, especially with Zoom being on board, that just take mind to what you say because everything is recorded. The votes will have to be done by roll call vote still. And if anyone's on Zoom at this point, kindly raise your hand. There is a hand raise feature on there if that doesn't quite work. Flailing your arms about rather rapidly also occasionally will gather some attention as well too. So with that in mind, we are about to establish a quorum at this point. So let me do the roll call on that. And I'm going to apologize. That may not be perfect. Let me start with the people who I've got on Zoom at this point. Seth Engelboard.
Here.
Mary Longacre.
Here.
Don Hill-Hogate. Maybe. It's probably hanging in the background. We'll check back in with her in a few moments. Christina Gelmy.
Here.
Wendy Hudson.
Here.
Joe Topham.
Here.
Dave Iverson.
Here.
Nat Lowell.
Here.
And the chair, Barry Rector, is here at this point. Looks like we're missing Bert Johnson, I think is the only one. That'd be about right. Okay. For staff members at this point, we have Leslie Woodson Snow.
Here.
And Nikki Street.
Mike.
Here.
And there's Mike Burns.
Present.
Yeah, and Arisa Kwame from Mass DOT.
Here.
Barbara LaChance, help me to figure that she's familiar but not familiar.
Mass DOT.
Thank you. All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, I can go on and change my name also. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's perfectly fine. No problem at all. And then we have a guest speaker as well too, Bob Davis from the SSA as well. And that is pretty much the list of anticipated people who are in this meeting so far. We do have a quorum available at this point. You have an agenda before you, and I'd love to have someone make a motion to approve that agenda.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. God, what I'd love to just say all those in favor say aye, but we're going to go back through the process again. Mary Longacre.
Aye.
Seth Engelboard.
Hi.
Don Hill-Holgate, are you there? Hey, hi.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
Don't worry about it. We're motioning to approve the agenda. Is that an aye?
Yes, that's an aye.
Thank you. No problem. Christina Gelmy.
Aye.
And Wendy Hudson.
Aye.
Joe Topham.
Aye.
Dave Iverson.
Aye.
Nat Lowell.
Aye.
And the chair, Barry Rector, votes aye in the affirmative. Is there any public comment at this point for anything not on the agenda? If not, we'll move along. We've got a pretty busy evening here ahead of us. So there are minutes from April 22nd. You've all had a chance to review them. Were there any errors, omissions, corrections that need to take place? If not, take a motion to approve that.
So moved, sir.
Thank you. And do I hear a
Second.
second? Motion's made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Geez, you see, I'm just so ready to do that at this point. Roll call vote again. Mary Longacre.
Abstain. I wasn't present.
Okay. Seth Engelboard.
Aye.
Don Hill-Holgate.
Aye.
Christina Gelmy.
Aye.
Wendy Hudson.
Aye.
Joe Topham.
Aye.
Dave Iverson.
Aye.
Nat Lowell.
Aye.
And the chair, Barry Rector, votes aye as well too.
Barry Burt has joined on Zoom.
Has he? Oh, good. I don't get to see. There he
Yeah,
is,
there he is.
Mr. Johnson. Good evening. Say hi, so we know you've got audio. I guess we're at the stage of flailing the arms around rapidly. Bert, can you hear us? All right, we're gonna move along. Let's not critical at this juncture at the moment. Bert, if you're there, we are not hearing you. I don't know if you're not hearing us, whatever the case may be, but. Okay, so. Mike, you're queued up at this point. We're into the transportation action discussion items, and the first thing is the 2050 transportation plan beyond mobility. So I'll let you roll from here, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me go ahead and share the screen if that's all right. And
Please.
this first item for Beyond Mobility, as you recall from last meeting, was an extended public comment period till May 31st. You might remember this chart attempting to compare the priority areas on the left that are in Beyond Mobility with the planning priorities for the NPDC on the right-hand side, and where they were not aligned or missing alignments or were noted with a red X. That's been refined down to a few bullet points and a comment letter. The comment letter does provide some comments that were mentioned at the last meeting, the need to perhaps have a discussion of each of the transportation facilities, highway, transit, active transportation, freight, aviation, ferry, and parking, discussion of affordability, which is an important priority for our region, although the Beyond Mobility did touch on that with mention of free transit, and reduce reliance on the automobile to help be more affordable for transportation users, but it wasn't really a top priority. It didn't read in Beyond Mobility. There's some other comments made for different asset types, again with the tone of Nantucket centric or Nantucket concerns noted in the comment letter. Again, the priority period or the comment period ends on May 31st, and staff is requesting, if there's no comments to the letter, and the letter that's included in the packet is fine to share, request that the way this motion is worded to approve the NPDC comments to Beyond Mobility for NPDC consideration. Perhaps a better motion would be to authorize the chair to sign the comment letter. I can answer any questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. Is there any discussion on this topic? I think okay, it's pretty well set forward about what the requested action is at this point, and hearing no comments from either Zoom or through the people here.
What happened?
I have no idea.
You get
Oh,
the-
you're replaying it backwards.
I thought I had the volume. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I made that mistake last time. I just don't do it now.
Kind of like
Barry, I want to jump in for the record. Barry, this is Mary Longacre. I just want to say,
Yes.
Mike, I thought that was an excellent letter and made a lot of really good points. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, so let's take motion to authorize the chair to sign that letter on behalf of the NP and EDC. Oh, someone would be willing to make that.
So moves. Second, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so the motion's made and second. Roll call vote at this point. Mary Longacre,
Aye.
Seth Engelboard,
Aye.
Don Hill Hogate,
Aye.
Bert Johnson. Is he there or not?
Bert dropped off just as Mike began speaking. He's probably trying to reconnect.
Could be, yeah. I don't have I don't have the luxury of the gallery view here at the moment. Thank you. Christina Jolly.
Aye.
Wendy Hudson.
Aye.
Joe Toppen.
Aye.
Dave Iverson. Nat Wolf.
Aye.
And Chair votes aye as well too. Thank you. I've not removed the full board, but hopefully we'll be able to get back in. Okay. Mike, transportation improvement plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The draft tip, which has been presented at the past two NPDC meetings, has been out for public review for the last 30 days. As you might recall, there are two projects in our highway program. One is for the design funds, or excuse me, for the third grant award for the Wallwind multi-use path. That's been programmed into fiscal year 2025, as well as supplemental funding for the intersection improvements at Milestone Road at Pulpus Road. That's funding in addition to the funding for in 2024 for that project. And I'll just note that there are other projects that are going into design along Milestone Road. There has been a design engineer confirmed for the Milestone Rotary and confirmed for the intersection improvements at Milestone Road at Nope Deer Farm Road. I don't believe the engineer has been selected yet. Perhaps Barbara Lechance could maybe confirm if there's been a designer of record assigned to the widening of Milestone Road from the Rotary to New South Road. Again, here's a map of those improvements along Milestone Road, which is a state asset, not a local asset. Regarding the transit program, again, this is a summary of all the different funding programs for the NRTA. How workforce housing is a top capital asset that's being funded through the TIP, as well as operations and vehicle replacements to replace the diesel fleet with cleaner transportation options such as electric or biodiesel. And here is a very difficult to read spreadsheet of all of those improvements programmed out over the 5-year time frame for the TIP. And we did do public outreach. I would say that town meeting probably soaked up a lot of the oxygen in the room for public outreach. We got 10 responses to our surveys. Regarding the question number 1, regarding the highway program, whether there was support for the Milestone and Walnut Road improvements, 8 positive, 1 negative comments, with the concern being no familiarity with the projects, and definitely but with a favor of safety and multimodal accommodations. Regarding the transit program, 6 positive, 2 negative comments were submitted. Again, for diversity of fuel types were a concern, and buses could probably be replaced on a less frequent schedule. The summary of comments were included in the packet, so I apologize for not doing that in the past, but those are in the packet for your review. Again, 10 comments were once upon a time a lot to get. We actually had in excess of 50 or close to 100 comments in some public outreach recently. But like I said, perhaps town meeting was really the focus of a lot of the public comments. So really didn't get a lot of public feedback for this review process. But we did run a review period from April 26th through today. We do have our meeting here to take any last public comments, and again, the action requested by staff is that you, after taking final public comments, to close the public comment review period and to approve the FFY 2025 to 29 TIP. And with all that said, I would ask if Marisa or Barbara had any other comments to add on to this presentation.
Hi, Mike. I just want to say, I believe that Fussin O'Neill is on board for Nova Deer and Milestone. I don't think we have anybody on yet for the Rotary. So I think that the Milestone Road reconstruction and Nova Deer Farm Road intersection, I think we have Fussin O'Neill on board.
Thank you.
For that. And like I said, they don't have a name yet for consultant yet for the Rotary reconstruction.
Okay. Anyone else want to comment on this? Hearing.
Just real quick, Mike, can you hear me, Mike? Through
Yes.
the owl or whatever we got.
Hootie.
We had 2 owls. There we go. So how far along are we on the Pulpus thing? Is that all set now? The little, left and the pullover thing to get past the cars that are waiting to go left. Is that all set?
The Milestone at Pulpus Road intersection improvements, I believe there will be an ask to, and Risa help me out with this, may be a need to ask for another subsequent amendment for FY 25 to adjust the funding for the out year, but that still has an add date of, I want to say June 20th to advertise construction.
Yes, that's correct.
So the widening and that is not at the same time? Is that kind of like what I'm hearing?
The intersection improvements, which is the bike path along the north side of the road, and then the reconfiguration. That is just a standalone project. The widening of Milestone from the Rotary to New South Road is a separate project.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to kind of like drift back into that a little bit to just make sure that you know, we've kind of skipped it a little, is what I'm saying, so. Just want to make sure that that was right, because that's what I remember, and I just wanted to make sure that that was what we're doing.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right,
Just to let you know, you do have one member of the public in attendance on Zoom. I don't see a hand up, but just letting you know there is somebody there.
yeah, thank you. You've got that coordinated, right? Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Anyways, so you see the action items before you at this point, which we could do simultaneously, which would be to close the public review period. And once that's closed, approve the FY 2025-2029 tip program. Questions, comments, and anyone willing to make that motion?
Make the motion to close the public review period,
And you want to approve the 2025-2020?
and with one motion, yes.
And might as well. I don't see the reason to have to separate these. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second, discussion. Hearing none, let's do the roll call vote. Mary Longacre,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Don Hill Holgate.
Aye.
Did Bert Johnson make it back?
He's showing here on my screen, but he's not connecting. I just
All right,
sent
so
him
he's not
an
connecting.
email to see if,
Okay.
you
No, that's fine. Thank you. Christina John.
Aye.
Wendy Hudson. Joe Topham.
Aye.
Dave Iverson.
Aye.
Nat Wall.
Aye.
And chair votes in the affirmative as well, too.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, when they make the motions, because I have Catherine and Sarah, she's assisting with the minutes now.
Yes.
If you could just repeat, like, motion made by Nat Lowell, seconded by Dave Iverson, she just sent me. a
Of
message.
course,
Please.
absolutely. We'll try,
Thank you.
we'll try to do that. And just do me a favor too, when you
I'll,
agree to
Yeah.
something, just say your name as well
Yes,
too, so
sorry.
that it'll get a little repetitive, but that's okay. I think repetition is necessary at the moment. Thank you. We'll do that. So that brings us to the Unified Planning Work Program. Mike, are you gonna break these apart or can we handle these at once?
They'll need to be broken apart. The first one deals with the FY 24 and the other one is the draft FY 25.
Sure.
So I did scroll through the packet to get to the slide deck here. This is a reallocation of funds for the FY 2024 work program. This just requires consultation within PNEDC to show that the staff is moving some hours around based on actual time used for different tasks. This is a mess of numbers. I'm sure you all just scrubbed the math on this to make sure that everything was correct during your review of the packet. But just to let you know that I have subtracted some time from data collection and from planning activities and added time to administrative and implementation activities just to keep it short. And this budget should be adjusted and should be fine to carry out the rest of the activities for the rest of the fiscal year through September 30th. Again, this is a budget that was developed a year ago, so it probably does need to be adjusted once we get well into the planning season. And staff would ask for approval of the FY 2024 UPWP budget reallocation as presented.
Great. Comments from anyone? Hearing none, you see the motion up on the screen at this point, if someone would like to approve that. Then I'll jump in at once.
Motion to approve.
That was Dave Iverson with the motion to approve.
Sorry about that.
Second it.
The second,
And I'm sorry, who seconded?
Joseph Topham.
Joe, thank you very much. Roll call vote at this point. Mary Longacre,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Don Hill Holgate,
Aye.
Bert we don't know about yet, Christina Jelmy, Wendy Hudson,
Aye.
Joe Topham,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Nat Wall,
aye.
and chair votes in the affirmative. Next, Mike.
Sure, this is the draft UPWP for the 2025 year. Again, what is the UPWP? It's federally required lists of planning activities. We break these into administrative data collection, planning studies, and implementation activities. We also get a budget for direct costs for travel, equipment, and other professional services. This year, it's a little over $22,000. The budget is very much identical or very similar to 2024 with a lot of the same tasks here. Not to run through every item in that table, but just to summarize, big activities for this next year are again developing strategies to limit single occupant vehicle use, development of a traffic model, which has been funded by the town, and there is some funding available at the regional level to push that along. There is an ongoing safety action plan in development, so task time will be devoted to that, as well as parking management and complete streets activities. And implementation activities includes grant management of federal and state funded projects, as well as providing local technical assistance to the various boards. Staff is requesting that, just as you did with the tip last month, to authorize a public review period from May 24th, this Friday, through your next meeting on June 24th, and schedule a public meeting on the and have the public meeting on the June 24th to collect any remaining public comments. Staff will provide the draft UPWP through communication staff and provide it online through the Zen City website. And lastly, staff requests action to authorize the public review period for the FY25 Unified Planning Work Program from May 24th to June 24th, with public meeting and discussion and action on June 24th at 5 p.m. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none. You see the requested action before you at this point. I would want someone to make a motion to approve that if you're so inclined.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Wendy. And second from
Second.
Christina, thank you.
Christine Jones.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Further discussion? Hearing none.
For
Let's,
discussion, just.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is this a time to talk about how we might better advertise to get more responses of the public, since we only got the 10? Do we have any ideas, like what's been effective in the past? Like social media with the town, that kind of thing,
Mike, you have a question?
doing that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to address that. Like I said, the communication staff does routinely post stuff on Facebook and goes above and beyond just a simple email blast to everyone. That was really minimized so it wouldn't dilute the public outreach related to all the different warrant articles for town meeting. I think that's where we came into a bit of a conflict. I'm not sure if we can avoid that in future years with the town meeting schedule and our regional planning documents that need to be developed. But we'll see this month how this goes. We might get more than 10 responses for our UPWP outreach, being that this can be pushed out onto Facebook and other social media, that it just really couldn't happen this last month.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, this
Fair.
might not be as important as others, but.
Yep.
It's an important topic. Yeah.
Barry Longacre.
Yes, thank you, Barry. One of the things that I noticed is, first, I want to agree with Mike that the town's communications department does do a good job of pushing out this information, but we have so many similar requests for feedback on traffic or transportation related items that I think we could be a little bit more specific in the wording on those notices, so that people would have a better chance to realize that the notice they see this week is not the same notice they saw last month, or they might have more interest if there's a more specific description of what we're asking for feedback on. Those just might be some ways to get more public engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I just find some of the information, it's always in the same kind of pattern. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of confusing where, oh, did I read that? So, I mean, sometimes I'm just flipping through, but I think maybe just a little bit of change of font style, whatever, to kind of make it each one unique would maybe help.
I would agree with you on that. Yeah. Anyone else? All right, so there's the comments at this point. We have a motion made, seconded. Let's do a roll call vote. Mary Longacre,
Aye.
Seth Engelboard,
Aye.
Don Hill Holgate,
Aye.
Bert's still hanging out there, I presume. Christina Jelemy,
Aye.
Wendy Hudson,
Aye.
Joe Topham,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Nat Lowell,
Aye.
and chair votes aye as well too. Safe streets and roads for all, SS4A. You want to just give us a quick update, Mike?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I'm scrolling through the slide deck here. As you know, the Safe Streets and for all, we received a grant for $575,000 to develop 3 safety action plans for Nantucket, and then the 2 other plans for Martha's Vineyard and Franklin County. And just going to the Gantt chart here of where we are today in May, the consultant is wrapping up data collection and identification of a high injury network and reviewing additional conditions and potential improvements to address those concerns. The 2 yellow stars there are some outreach events that we'll be scheduling. In July, the consultant will be doing site visits with our traffic safety work group to view the list of high injury locations, or the top injury locations. And then later in October, a public feedback, a virtual public meeting to share that with the public to verify that the public is in support of the improvements that have been recommended to improve safety. And just to quickly share some maps that have been developed so far, here is a list of all crashes in the last 5 years on Nantucket, broken down by type, with fatality, other injuries, or property damage. And you can see the concentration in Mid-Island and downtown. Those have been there has been some weighting system applied to the crashes. Fatality, serious injuries were scored much higher than property damages, which were scored higher than crashes without any damage at all. And this is a map showing the ranking of high crash locations throughout the islands to see where those are spatially, and then a table of the top intersection locations. These are the top 20 intersections, and then there are top 10 corridors. I'll note that the highlighted intersections here are intended to show projects that have had improvements proposed and are in progress of being implemented. Number 1 is the Milestone Rotary. That's in design through Mass DOT, as well as the number 2, Nobody Farm Road, Milestone Road. And number 3, the current project that might go to bid this summer, the Milestone at Pulpus Road. And Milestone at Tom Nevers has already been addressed. There are other projects that have been developed in the past that are not highlighted here. Surfside at Bartlett Roads, you may all be familiar with the roundabout that was proposed at that location. On the far right is a status of all the different projects and hyperlinks to project descriptions for those. The idea at the end of this effort, and let me just go through and say that very similar for the different corridors for this project. I'll note that ultimately this is all culminate, Mr. Chairman, with a prioritization of projects, and about this time next summer, the commission will be asked to approve that prioritized list of projects. And as far as next steps, I did mention that we met with traffic safety, met with them last week to review top locations. We have a site visit in July, as I had mentioned. An August meeting will be set to review those recommendations with municipal stakeholders, school administration, planning staff, and town administration, before going out to the public and later on in October to share those recommendations. So, Mr. Chair, that's just a very quick update on the status of that, just so that you know that there has been work done since the grant was awarded, and just wanted to share that progress with you all. Happy to take any questions on this.
Right, before we do that, is there any action items that you need for this?
This is
Or is
purely
that just-
informational.
All right, thank you. Mary?
Thank you. Mike, do we have context for other communities of our size, whether our number of accidents or our average severity or whatever metric is appropriate is high for a community of this size or low for a community of this size?
We do, and that's really the benefit of teaming with Franklin County and with Martha's Vineyard. We're the 3 rural regions in Massachusetts, so we're all kind of sharing numbers with one another. I do have other charts that I didn't get into at this meeting. I'm happy to share that at future meetings to kind of show comparatively where Nantucket crashes are with the rest of the state, as well as with the rural regions. I will note that our bicycle crashes are slightly higher than the rest. The crashes involving older population is a little higher than the other regions, and that's just a virtue of our demographics. The rest, I would say, are just looking at our severity scores, much less than, say, Franklin County. They had a lot of they have interstates going through their region. So they're and much more frequent serious injuries and fatalities than we have here on Nantucket. So they have much higher severity scores than we do. But if it's all right, I'll share that with you all at the next meeting. I just didn't want to get too much into the weeds with the data here, but I'm happy to share that with you at subsequent meetings.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Mike. That's perfect. All right, so next thing before us at this point is we are going to have a discussion about potentially submitting a letter to NOAA on the North Atlantic right whale vessel strike reduction rule. And we have 3 members of the public here as well, too. I don't know if they're going to want to comment or not, but I will also yield to them as well. Gentlemen, do you want to see where this goes and make comment at some juncture?
Sure, where are you going, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, why don't you come forward to at least this table so we'll get a better view of you all. And then when you're ready, you can chime in and tell us who you
I
are.
can give you as much information about right whales or please don't.
There you go.
I know far more than I ever.
Beautiful. Thank you for being here, by the way. Leslie, where do you want to proceed with this?
Well, I guess I'll just start by saying that, there is a rule that is currently proposed by NOAA that would drastically reduce the speeds in Nantucket Sound. That would have a lot of impacts to Nantucket. So, it would impact not only how we go back and forth to the mainland, but it would have a huge impact on, I think, our overall economy and how we get all of our goods and services delivered. So it's a very important issue that you all should be talking about. And I don't have a lot of the technical information. I know Bob Davis is here from the steamship. They're very involved. I'm doing the developments, very interested as well. So I think maybe you should hear from the public.
I think that's a capital idea, and I just want to be sensitive as well too, because I know some of the members from New England Development have got to be on the 7 o'clock vote tonight. So if I shift things around a little bit, I will do that to try to accommodate them the best I can. Do you think it would be wise to hear from Bob Davis at the moment? All right, Mr. Davis, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. I think the quick summary of the proposed rules from NOAA that it would impact any vessel that's 35 feet or above. Currently, it's 65 feet. But instead of it being a voluntary slow zone, it would be a mandatory slow zone. In the case of New England and our service to the island, that would run from November 1st to May 30th of each year. So we'd be restricted to 10 knots, which the INO runs at about 32 knots normally to make schedule. And our other vessels are, in the area of 13 knots for those. So if we were to slow down to 10 knots, the impact is going to be about 30 to 35 minutes added to the sailings on our traditional vessels, which means that instead of being able to accomplish getting 3 round trips a day with those traditional steel vessels, we'd be down to 2 or perhaps 2.5. We'd have to work out a schedule where to get that extra half in, but we're restricted with the number of hours that our crews can operate the vessels, and to stay within that, we'd be lowering the number of trips that we could make. Right now, there's a dynamic zone that they have that if there is a sighting and to be going slow, that's been voluntary since 2008. And those zones typically last up to 15 days. The new proposed regulations increases the zone that this management area is, and it doesn't take into account land masses. So for instance, a sighting in Cape Cod Bay, the box that they would put around it could extend halfway to Nantucket or more, which would impact our sailings as well. And I should say that we're not opposed to protecting the right whales. The issue that we see is that just over the past 22 years or so, 23 years, we've run over 500,000 trips between the two islands. And not once has our crews spotted a right whale. Not once have they been informed of a right whale in the area. The consensus being is that the sounds, the water is generally too shallow for the right whales to stay in. And so we're looking to try to get the Nantucket and Vineyard Sound exempt from these regulations, which there are other sounds that along the coast that have been already identified as being exempt from the proposed regulations, but the Nantucket and Vineyard Sound were not included in that. So we're looking at it, our ability to be able to service the islands, obviously with high speed. With us, we'd still have the INO during the summer season, but Highline, I don't see how they, with their high speed model, how they're able to make a go of it doing this. So there's the ability for the islanders to come and go from the island would be greatly restricted. It obviously is going to have an economic impact to the island if we're only able to run 2 trips a day instead of 3 trips a day with one of our steel vessels. And how do we allocate the space that's necessary to bring over the necessities of life to the island, whether it's food or fuel or medicine or and the like. So that'll be something that would be a drastic change in our ability to service the island. But there's also a social aspect of this that we're looking at. We've done studies as part of some funding that we have with FTA. We're able to show that our services, along with Highline services, that over 50% of the passengers that come and go, they come and go on the same day, same calendar day. And whether they're coming over, whether those are commuters heading to the island in the morning to go to work, or whether that's island residents coming off island to, whether it's a sporting event or a medical care, things like that, it will all have an impact on that in terms of it. So back in October of 2022, we submitted our letter. Our comments that we submitted were one of a little over 90,000 comments that they received, the Department of Commerce received regarding these regulations, which I'm informed that that's an extremely high number of comments, both for and against. The legislation, the regulations as proposed, we're informed have been forwarded to the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, which is part of the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, for review. At that point, they could either approve those and they would be sent back for I think this additional comment period. But otherwise, they have the opportunity to send it back for additional review. One of the things is the economic impact of their regulations. My understanding is that there's a threshold of $100 million that NOAA had to show that if it exceeded that, there was a deeper study that needed to be done. My understanding is that the initial economic impact study came back that it was less than $100 million. So, which I guess the validity of that needs to be verified. But so in a nutshell, we're concerned about all the impact it's going to have on our ability to service the islands, from an operational standpoint, but also the impact it would have for the community itself. We did request to be able to provide testimony to the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs. We do have a time slot in June that we're able to provide testimony, and then we're also able to follow it up with some written testimony. We're not able to confirm that the 90,000 plus comments that were received, whether those were forwarded along with the proposed regulations to OMB. So this gives us another opportunity to be able to provide that comment period, those comments during that comment period as well, to make sure that they're on the record. And I was reaching out to find out what the island's position is going to be on this, whether they would like to submit something that we could include in our package, or whether the island want to participate, or whether the island wanted to see if they could have their own teleconference with regarding this. But I think it's a serious issue for both islands, more so Nantucket because of the distance and the speed that it takes to be maintaining the schedules that we have. On the Vineyard side, it's close. It could have certain times of the year we may have to be cutting back a trip on the Vineyard side, but it clearly is going to have a devastating impact on our service to Nantucket. And we just don't have the ability with the number of vessels that we have and the crew members that we have to be able to fill in those gaps with additional vessels operating. So.
Right. Thank you. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go to the gentleman here from New England Development, because they're kind of on a tight time scale. And then I'll go back and check in with you all and see if there's anyone else in the public. Gentlemen, welcome. If you'd like to identify yourself for the record, please, that would be greatly appreciated.
John Tuig, I know many of you, I'm general counsel at New England Development. I've represented for a long time Nantucket College Hospital also, as we've gone through the hospital. And Greg O'Brien is with me. Greg and I've been working on Stop and Shop matters for a lot of years too. So a lot of involvement in the island. I'm gonna, Chairman, sorry with you. I didn't want to kill any more trees, but there are 3 packages here. They're all the same.
Yeah.
Of information. Because and in this is some interesting information you may want. I can also send this electronically for you.
That would be great.
So you have that. It's got a little agenda and there's everything in there from some articles, as well as Bob Davis mentioned, an opportunity to. There's a link in there where you can actually link in to get an interview and a discussion with NOAA. I would strongly suggest that this commission consider that. Because the one thing that is true is that the final rule cannot be issued as long as NOAA is in consultation with others. Just so you're aware, and this was something that, and Bob has talked about a lot of this, and I won't repeat it, but this has been around for a long time. 2022, it kind of went silent. There were 2 people from the Congress who put a hold on it. One was Manchin, who was leaving. The other was a fellow out in Minnesota. They put a hold on this because they thought blanket bans were bad ideas. Isn't there technology today that we could try to address whales and whale sightings and how that could work? But Manchin is leaving and the other fellow isn't going to pursue it. So on March 5th, this was filed, as Bob mentioned, with the White House office. And they have, after 30 days, the ability to be able to issue a regulation. I won't repeat some of the things with the regulation, but yes, 90,000 comment letters did go in, but there are a lot of supportive comment letters, a lot of people. And there's nothing wrong with protecting right whales, and all very appropriate, and we all want to do that. Although there has never been a right whale sighting in Nantucket Sound. That's one of the reasons Nantucket Sound was there. And having learned far more about right whales than I ever care to want to learn, no great surprise. They feed 24/7. They follow the feeding pattern that comes up, starts in Florida, goes up through Maine and up to Canada, and then comes back down. They don't go in Nantucket Sound because there isn't food there. It's too shallow. It's not where the currents take them. It's not where the flow is out of Gulf of Mexico. So there isn't, that's why they aren't here. So it's just something to know. Some of the issues that you clearly see when you talk about this, the changes that they made, instead of 65-foot ships, 35. The time frames of November to May, mandatory 10 knots. It virtually puts Highline out of business. Highline is not a displacement vehicle. It's a catamaran, floats around the top. Daily life as we know it in Nantucket cannot continue if you can't have high-speed ferry. Yep. Because you have over 800,000 trips a year. 35% of them are done in these months that they're talking about. And the catamaran just won't work during those months. There's no way to replace that. So when school kids go over to, they're gonna play in New Bedford, after school, when people go for doctor's visit, when you go over and you're back the same day, which is the bulk of what you have there, none of that will work. If these regulations were to go forward. The other big change, and Bob alluded to it, was it used to be discretionary as to during the season, if a right whale was located. Now it becomes mandatory, effectively kind of a mandatory 15-day lockdown. And that could be in season outside of the period of November to May. So pretty much the life that sort of year-round Nantucketers have will be very different if these regulations should go through. Not to mention all the issues that Bob brought up briefly, freight, getting food to the island, how that's going to function, how we're going to be able to move forward, I think is very different. I gave you a bunch of documents. What's really in there? One of the regulations that got promulgated in 2022, and they sat for a long time. And then in March of this year, they had a technology conference that was Congress mandated. So you got to figure out, it's got to be a technology that's better than just saying you can't go at this speed. And then on the last day of the conference, NOAA filed the regulations with the White House office on March 5th. And that starts the clock of issuing the final rule, unchanged. Now, we all know, and just so you know, I worked on a project back in 2011 for the LNG tankers to come through the canal and go up to Boston. And they were able to design buoy systems that would alert if there was a whale that sends sonar to the LNG tankers to say, there's a whale here, you have to slow down. Now that was technology back in 2011 and they figured out how to do it. I have a feeling in 2024, there's better technology than that. And that's really got to be the answer. It can't be these sort of, so the regulations are in there. The summary is in here as a second item that summarizes what the changes are, like the boat timeframes. It's probably the most important thing if you're interested in it to look at, because it sort of does help you understand what that is. Highline's letter is in here too, that they submitted objection. It sort of has a good sort of analysis of what are the economic impacts. So I try to include that so you would have that. There's some articles in here that were issued Martha's Vineyard, what are the impacts, what are the impacts of Provincetown. There's also a letter from Representative Keating and Lynch that filed objections to this. Representative Keating has been nominated as the one for the Massachusetts delegation to argue against this, which is fine. Our Senate delegation has been a little quiet, mostly because of their commitment to and not wanting to upset the environmental community as it relates to protection of whales, which we absolutely understand, but the impacts are so devastating to the daily life. I think of what the impacts would be to Hyannis, what the impacts are to Nantucket, certainly. Martha's Vineyard, a little less, but not insignificant as to what that. Provincetown, very significant impacts. So that's really where people's focus, but there are a couple of letters in here that I think are worthwhile reading and sort of understanding. And there was one about a whale that was on the front page of the Cape Cod Times this past weekend. Now, the whale was sighted. And they said, well, then people in Cape Cod will be ready to respond. It was sighted 10 miles off the coast in Canada. Wasn't particularly around here. So there's a lot of information that's sort of out there. Not all of it great. The last thing that's here, as I mentioned, is a link to if you want to request. We've requested a meeting. I know Bob Davis has requested a meeting. A lot of people have. Because the only people currently, and I hate to say this, but people were sort of lulled to sleep about this. Now the state of Florida has engaged, North Carolina has engaged, and Massachusetts has engaged. But a lot of, you look at this map, which changes, is really pretty much the whole East Coast that says you have to address the right whale issue. And it's the idea of a blanket, you shall not go more than 10 knots per hour during this period of time. And if we tell you, regardless of time of year, you cannot go more than 10 knots per year for 15 days, would be devastating to the economics of sort of how we run and how people live here. It'll be okay in the summer for the most part, but think that you can't survive the High Line, for example, with if 35% of your revenues is gone and you can't function and run the boats. I mean, that's just sort of not what it is. So I'll finish up with that. We certainly, it's not supported by sighting. It's not of whales. It's not supported by the devastating economic impacts. But it is a rule that, and I've done regulatory work for 30 years, federal government can issue it. because it's done, it's a final, it's considered a final rule. Now, there are some appeal processes that can be done, which Representative Keating and Representative Lynch are aware of and will undertake, but then you're fighting against something that's been issued. Never a great place to be. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stop, but happy to answer any questions. Unfortunately, I've learned far more about this than
Got it down.
yeah.
You got it down.
Well, I gotta, it's a, you know, it is something I really do believe. People who
Unbelievable.
lulled into,
Yeah.
oh, 22, they just, oh yeah, they're not gonna be issued, and that's when they were first promulgated. And everybody went to sleep. And I mean that from Florida to Maine, everybody went to sleep. But on March 5th, they were filed with the White House office. Next step is publication and issuance. So it's not a small issue.
Gentlemen, did you want to, anyone else?
Hey,
Dave?
my name is Dave Fredericks. I'm actually here with Island Energy Services, right? So I think everyone knows, we probably supply almost every person on the island with some form of fuel, either for your car, for your home, whatever that form may be. We also probably support 90% of the homes when it comes to problems with their heating services or their cooking or so on. So why would I care about this? Like John, my previous life, I had 30 years in permitting, most of it on the water, most of it in wetlands and things like that. So I have a pretty good understanding of a process. I showed up for a completely different reason. All of the things these folks said, I think the most important point is everyone's committed to trying to protect the whale. I believe in my heart that there are better technologies, but I'm really here ringing a bell saying that the island should be having this discussion in a lot of places. This is the first. It should be the selectmen. It should be candidly our finance committee, because this would devastate the island. We need to wake up and pay attention to this. There are, I think, great solutions out there, but the fact that they expanded into our area without any explanation, that when they had a conference to talk about what options may exist, they didn't wait 24 hours to even digest what they heard and file the bill anyways, brings to me that this was not objective, and we should be worried about that, having seen government do strange things. And we as a community need to ring that bell and in one voice get a hold of NOAA, get a hold of our state officials, and just say, slow down, let's get educated, and let's find the right answer versus what feels like an overreach without an understanding. If we got down and lost 50% of our boats, it would be devastating to the business we run. It would be devastating to our ability to support the houses. 6 or 7 of our key people show up every day on that boat. And we've all been either without heat or without cooking or some other mechanism. And we're one small piece of this island, right? Forget about what it does to Stop and Shop and the ability to get food. Who here hasn't complained they didn't get fresh vegetables? Imagine if they got 10 less boats a week, what your food would look like. Imagine if you were sick and had to go back and forth to Boston. I've been there. I don't want to do it on the slow boat in a 3-hour. And a lot of us in this room can probably afford to get on a plane. But for every one of us, there are 9 people who can't afford to get on a plane. So when people say the answer is go back to planes, I can't see a plane big enough to bring a tanker of fuel here. And I also 9 out of 10 people I know can't afford to fly more than once or twice a year. Let's just ring a bell and get a conversation going. That's my request.
Yeah.
And by the way, the time is now.
Yeah.
Regrettably, it's now.
It's
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just,
Yeah.
Mary's had
Oh,
her hand
yeah,
up.
I know she has.
And I don't
I'm
know if that's
Yielding to
old
them.
or new. Okay.
That's okay. I'm yielding to them first because again, they've got a. little
Yeah,
bit
no,
of
I
time.
want to just go ahead.
Mr. O'Brien, did you have anything? Or you
Let's
just,
just say I agree fully with.
Greg just likes to ride over.
I live on Outer Cape Cod and 74 years old, and probably 45 of those years I've visited Nantucket very often. I love Nantucket, you know, and I'm also very involved with the Provincetown Center for Coastal Studies, so I'm in favor of protecting right whales. I just think that this will have a devastating impact on Nantucket. It's not going to affect me so much. If I have to come over, I guess I could fly, but I'm worried about Nantucket because I care about Nantucket, and it's I think it's one of the most incredible places in the world. That's just
great. So before I go any further, do you have any questions for these gentlemen, first of all? Mary, I know you've had your hand up for a while. Do you have a question for them?
I'm happy to have waited for the other gentleman. Thank you.
No, and
Not
I
a
appreciate,
question for them, just a comment when you're ready.
yeah, no, and I appreciate your patience. Thank you for doing that. I really do. Okay,
I want to thank John Tuick for all his efforts,
yeah,
and I want to just sort of add, say the same thing in a more simplified manner. This is turning Nantucket back to 1959. That's what this would do. Okay, now I say 1959 because the boat went to Woods Hole in 1960. That's the level of change there'd be. There would be no more sports programs. Gone. We're not going to Woods Hole with like the basketball team and that's it for the weekend like we used to do. There was no sports here then. That is not the case now. This place is, there's so much opportunity for youth here now compared to what it was even 20 years ago, let alone, you know. But I want to speak to the one of the things that I think has happened, that John mentioned and Dave mentioned, is I think it's so crazy that people might not believe it could even happen. Like, it is so impossible to fathom this actually happening for 6 months a year.
Yeah.
I just think that it's like, oh my God, that's impossible. And that's it. Now, the airplane thing is a whole nother conversation that's like, gets into things where like Cessnas, they're not coming back. We're not going back to Island Air and Nantucket Air and you just have 2 ticket books in your hand and you say, who's next? That isn't ever gonna happen again.
we're not going back to $25
It's
fare.
never, ever gonna happen. And anyone that remembers that thinks that can happen, needs to really think about what things cost today. Those airplanes aren't running like they used to. The last one was built, I think, 1985. So that's not gonna happen. But the key, what we have to do as a community, and Dawn's on the meeting, this is very important. How do we speak with one voice? As Nantucket, I haven't heard Dylan's name mentioned, or Julian's name mentioned. I know Keating was with Bob in DC when he was down there. I mean, this is like an education for people that don't understand how Nantucket operates. Like, this is something that is so far beyond. If you haven't visited to Nantucket and you're in Washington DC and you work for NOAA, how would you know how this place runs? So you see stuff on TV and we're like the highfalutin community and JetBlue and American Airlines, and that's all you see. That's not the case. So I think the biggest thing for us to do is how to speak with one voice, how a letter or more than one letter should be written, how many signatories there should be, you know, that type of thing. I think that's where we need to go personally.
So let me do a quick bit of foreshadowing for you at the moment. I think we need to have multiple voices here now,
Yeah.
not just one.
Yeah.
Because
one voice with multiple voices as one.
well, there you go, because these issues not only extend to us, but they extend to other regional planning agencies that are out there as well too. And I've asked Leslie to start the process with MARPA and MAPC. And I'll let her fill you in on a few minutes with that. But there's some additional voices that need to register there too.
Yeah.
In realizing that it's not just us
No, it's not.
in that process. And just listening to things today, I've got another thing that I think we need to do here as well too. So we'll get to it. Let me go to Mary, who's been incredibly patient, and then Wendy, I'll come to you next.
Thank you, Barry. So I have a couple of points. The first is, along the lines of what you and Nat were just discussing, I think we should be talking to Mass DOT. This is a transportation issue. We should also be talking to the Chamber of Commerce, to the Hyannis Chamber of Commerce. I absolutely think we have to get more organizations involved in this. I completely support the NPDC sending a letter, not only to voice our concerns, but also to contest the economic impact study. That doesn't seem possible that it could be under 100 million. And then the second point is these regulations don't protect whales in places where there aren't any whales. So there's no loss of protection for the whales by exempting Nantucket and Vineyard Sound if there are no whales there. It shouldn't be that hard to do. Long Island Sound is already exempt. I think there's a very strong case for our waters being exempt from this because it offers no protection to apply these rules. Thank you.
Wendy?
Yeah, similarly, I was picking up on the economic impact study, like I thought, no way is it under 100 million. And you reference sort of that the Highline has a study in here.
Highline has a letter in here that talks about it. I mean, reality is you don't have to be, I believe, and I want to speak for, there are a few people who have said we need to engage an economic development firm, people who do economic studies that will look at this and realize the impact when you add Provincetown, Hyannis, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard is probably in the billions, not in the, I mean, if you just think about,
Totally.
every morning, when I'm on the boat at 9:30
Yeah.
in February, there are 200 contractors on there.
It's sold out.
Imagine if those folks can't come here.
Yeah.
Because they just can't get here. What does that do? I mean, it's massive, and then you multiply that. I mean, I think it's probably billions, not millions. It's certainly not under 100 million. I mean, I think that's a silly commentary. I mean, Nantucket sold $1.7 billion in real estate last year. Think about all the work that happens and on a daily, on a weekly, on an annual basis. That's a silly.
Yeah, Dave?
John, if you were to counsel us on what the next step, if this board all agrees that they want to take action, what's the most efficient, effective action? Because it doesn't seem like we haven't got a lot of time. So what would you suggest if the board decides they want to do something? What would be the first action?
Well, I think there are probably three things that I would think about. One, I wouldn't shy away from requesting a meeting with NOAA. Because as I said, they cannot act without consultation being completed. So I would suggest that would be certainly one thing to do. Do I think Representative Keating's office is very engaged in this and focused on it? Yes. Do I think they necessarily know what to do? Not sure. Because there's the suggestion about should you take away Nantucket Sound and just remove it from the map? That's a bigger issue. Then at the very least, the approved freight lines, there needs to be an exception. Sometimes in the regulatory world, creating an exception is easier than removing something. But I think related to all that is having Nantucket speaking to Representative Keating and Markey and Senator Markey on this, so that they understand there's a large voice. And the third thing is to so it's really requesting a meeting, speaking to elected representatives, and I know that Select Board Member Holgate, who's been very active in this, Leslie's been active in it. What can we do to kind of keep that voice going? And then thirdly, the economic impact. And so one thing that can be a trigger is if the economic impact can be shown to exceed their regulatory authority, they can't issue. So that's, however that is done, whether that's supporting an economic study or providing data on making that as part of your commentary, that is a place to go. So it's really, those are the things that you think about. But Dave said a very interesting thing, and he and I talked about this. There they were in early March, they being NOAA, having a technology conference about other alternatives. It ended on a Friday. They filed the regulations on a Friday. How much effort and focus did they put into that technology discussion? Someone had already made the decision, okay,
Right.
We're gonna let that conference happen and then we'll file it, right? That tells you in that regulatory world that they feel they have the empowerment to move forward in this regulation that's gonna get passed. Because who would ever vote against protecting the only 350 right whales that we have left, putting aside the fact that a right whale's never been seen in there. That's the oddity we have. But those are three things that I would focus on. Thank you.
So I'm gonna ask you a quick question. What's the absolute deadline on this thing?
That's a tough one.
All right, let's.
I sort of said to people when asked that, they filed on March 5,
Yeah.
sitting in the White House Information Office, okay, Regulation Office. They can publish, it becomes final in 30 days.
Sure.
They could do that almost anytime. There is no I don't know of anything except for what I've been told, which is we will not issue it as long as they are requested consultations, which is no great surprise. I know the steamship scheduled one, we've scheduled one, a bunch of other people scheduled them too. I kiddingly said to someone, I'd like to schedule it about a year from now. Tell them we're very busy for the next year. But that's what I've been told, that they won't issue without consultation completion.
Okay,
But something to think about.
so at a minimum, that would be one of the first things that this commission. should
I
look
gave you
at
the
doing
link
if
here. I
We are
think
so
you should
inclined.
hit that link and schedule. I
Yeah.
mean, that would be one thing to consider.
Okay, that helps, at least knowing and what possibilities are there, and then being able to extrapolate backwards as to where you need to be as we're going along with this thing.
One of the, if I may, one comment
Yeah.
I would add is, I think John brought up something. We have to keep talking about what are the alternatives. In my previous life, like I said, I would watch these things get done. And rarely can you turn the ship, but you can direct the ship. So if we can get people talking about technologies, because we're all committed to solving the problem they're after. If we can look at how you might exempt some ferry lines, given their economic impact. If you can look at what tools we can bring to the table related to public education and what we're trying to accomplish. So it's part of this kind of in the bigger picture. You've got to have a response. It can't be we're against this. I think the response has to be there are modifications that make sense, and we need to start talking about what those are in every conversation. So it's not a no to what we're trying to do here. It's a modification that's thoughtful.
Thank you, that's sage advice. All right, board members, do you have any thoughts here? Anything you'd like to comment on? All right, let me, did you have something? Because I got a few things I wanna.
Yeah, I guess. The economic, like, who would they believe on the economic impacts, that, like, that just feels like a really important,
Best weapon, I think, it seems.
yeah. Like,
Let's
100 million is just crazy.
I think really it's.
I like these other steps, but I
Yeah.
just didn't want to lose that one, you know, that if we're the NPDBC, maybe do we have?
I think one thing that we need to walk out of here today is requesting a consultation.
No
Period.
question.
No.
Period, okay, and that at least will start a process, but there's a few things that I see coming out of this. Certainly it wouldn't hurt if we've got a little bit of time underneath us to have a summit meeting with the select board, FinCom, Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure who else, but I think it would be good to get them all at the same table, and let's have this same discussion again. So that we're not only sending something from this regional planning agency, but locally we're identifying that as well too. In terms of doing an economic study, I love the idea, but I don't know if time is there, or more importantly, where funding would be derived from that. Of course, the first thing I'd run to is our DLTA funding, but I think that's already spoken for. Go ahead.
No, it seems by listening to these gentlemen, that is really our best weapon here.
Yeah.
And so I really think we need to figure out how to fund that and to make it happen. Again, of course, we're gonna schedule, a talk with Noah, but it seems like that is the weapon that we need. And so I think we need to figure out how to make that happen, find some funding and get that rolling, in my opinion.
Yeah,
You think about your state reps, they have access to money, and truly, we need a Julian's here, we need those people to care about this.
Yeah.
Just the 2 cents.
That's good.
They might also have access to those kinds of people that can make this review more credible and maybe more timely.
Yep. What else did I have? Study, it sounds like we're gonna have to definitely meet with Keating, Markey and Sear. And I don't know how that's gonna take place. Leslie, kind of circle me back into MARPA and MAPC. Because I think there's some untapped power there we haven't thought of.
Well, I asked Mike to reach out to SERPED, which is
Yeah.
the regional planning agency that includes New Bedford, to the Martha's Vineyard Commission.
Yeah.
And to the Cape Cod Commission.
Okay,
Those are the groups that we most affected.
Yeah.
And none of them are talking about this or seem to be planning to do that. So
Really?
that's really as far as we got between the time you and I talked last week and.
yeah. So that's the official version.
Yes.
That's a little bit of a shocker.
That's my concern.
And Mr. Chairman, that is what we have found, that people are saying, what do you mean the right wheels? Oh, yeah, they tried to do that a few years ago. That all went away. And then you explain to them and send them a copy of what they filed on March 5th and they of 2024 and said, oh, maybe it hasn't. It's amazing the lack of,
Yeah.
so that, but that's a classic, honestly, federal regulatory framework. Yeah, it gets filed and it'll get issued some night and, yeah.
Right.
Just
Do you think, Leslie, maybe escalating this a notch and sending them a letter of grave concern?
Well, I was planning on circling back with them
Okay,
just
good, good.
just to have a further discussion, but I did not have time to do that between.
No, I understand.
the
It was
last week and now.
between when we got this onto the agenda and where we are today. I know it was a short time period, but unfortunately, time is not really our friend here at the moment either. And somehow there needs to be, I honestly believe there needs to be a wake-up call to those organizations about what that is all going to mean for them as well, too. Just so that they're aware of what's going to happen.
I mean, is there a NOAA office that's like on the Cape or is this federal only?
regional headquarters are in Boston now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can get you the street, that's what, but I think they're doing both, I think they're mostly doing Zoom meeting.
That would tend to make
Whatever
sense
works.
because, yeah,
It's in downtown, and I think it's in the federal building. It's Boston.
not the first time we've made a trip to Boston, though. And sometimes being in
Well-
person has.
If they'll take it, yes,
Yes, yep, absolutely.
Bob's got something. to
Yeah, I
say.
was I wanted to circle back to him. That couldn't have been any time there. Go ahead.
So, just to be clear, the teleconference when it's scheduled is actually with the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs. It's not with NOAA.
Okay,
It's at that stage where, in my understanding of the teleconference is you got 30 minutes. They don't answer any questions, and not aware that they ask any questions. You just provide your testimony, say thank you very much, and then send in your submittal. So
let me ask you a question. Is there an effective strategy for dealing with them within 30 minutes?
well,
I mean,
I've talked with other operators that are part of the Passenger Vessel Association that would be impacted by this. Some of them have already provided testimony. One is the service that runs from Boston to Provincetown,
right,
cruise lines. So I talked with Mike Glassfeld about his, and he provided me with a copy of his submittals as well. And I've talked with the Passenger Vessel Association. They were also involved in that call, and they've apparently been on other calls with other ferry operators on the East Coast that would be impacted. So, from our standpoint, and again, we're not against preserving the right whales. It's just they're not seen in the sound. And if you go to the NOAA site and expand it to the largest date range, you see that there's no sightings that are marked within the sound. So, that was, our goal was to try to get those exempt from the final rule in order to be able to provide. And if there end up being a sighting, I mean, we've seen humpback, we've seen minke whales, we just never seen a right whale, and no one's reported one either. So, I think we question the economic impact that NOAA has submitted. I had reached out to a firm to try to get them to see if they could how quickly they could put something together.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that firm is no longer doing those types of studies, and I haven't located another one yet. And I don't know whether the turnaround time for this, and I do think time is of the essence. When we applied for our hearing, it was about 30 days, and I'm not sure whether they set whether there's a timeline set for when they'll accept testimonies up to a certain date or not. So I guess I'd have to explore their website a little bit more to see if that was the case.
Bob, it's John Tuick. Can I ask you a question? Who did you reach out to? Craig Seymour, RKG, or that crowd, or a different group?
Yes, Greg, yes. And he indicated that he's no longer performing those services.
Was that Craig Seymour?
Yes.
Okay. There is another group that he used to be with that might, if you don't mind, I'll send you a couple of names.
Okay.
For economic study.
We'd like to be on that list. Thank you. All right.
A lot of hands up.
Oh, we do have a lot of hands up. There you go. All right, so Seth, you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you everyone who's presented. So I think the economic development side of the puzzle is very important. And also I'm going to speak as a scientist today in that I think the looking at alternative technologies is really important here. And NOAA knows these exist because NOAA helped pioneer these technologies, things like acoustic monitoring and acoustic detection for whales. You know, the Northeast Fisheries Science Center, which is part of NOAA, actually was started in 1871 in Woods Hole of all places, helped pioneer these technologies. So I think it's crazy that NOAA is trying to, you know, basically ignore the mapping and the tools that they already have available to them and that scientists have been employing for decades now. But I think we also need to shed a light on that, and that there is a way to do regulatory legislation that causes beneficial impact to the protection of endangered species. I think everybody in every room wants that, while at the same time using technologies that avoid unintended impacts. So if, you know, if it's impossible, let's say, to exempt Nantucket Sound, there's other ways to solve the issue, like having some acoustic monitoring systems deployed in the sound, and then only having the restrictions come into place if they're getting pings. And if there's no detections, then there's no need for restrictions. I mean, it's similar to what there is today with the voluntary restrictions, but it would just be a little bit more kind of like a science or data-based approach. But that having a blanket restriction isn't beneficial to anybody or the species itself. So I think we need to really emphasize it's not just about economic development, but it's also about using science in a way that we're making decisions supported by best data, not by just what people's assumptions are. That's the reason why science exists, and that's the reason why NOAA is a scientific agency. So I think it's a little bit ironic, honestly, that they wouldn't use the science available to them in making their own policy.
Thank you. Dawn?
I really like the track that Seth is on with the technology. I think that proposing a solution would go a long way. And I also wanted to echo Barry about having the consultation. I think that both the NP and EDC should schedule a consultation, as should the select board schedule a separate consultation acting as the county commissioners.
Yep.
And that as many people that can be in front of them, the more people that could be in front of them, the better, is what I'm meaning to say. And I mean, it would be great if we had some more economic impact analysis to back it up. But I think that I mean, it's quite clear to any of us who use the ferry on a regular basis the kind of impact this would have for all of the kids that travel back and forth for sports, and all of us that have to go off for certain shopping activities aside from various medical appointments. So I just wanted to echo some of the comments that have been made, but also I think that it would be really good as a community if we can get more people in front of them And if we can approach the discussion with some ideas for how to monitor it so that we don't have to have the restriction, but we can protect the whales.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on that economic development note, I have one database that Mass DOT provides to all the regions that has economic spending for retail. Again, this doesn't capture everything,
Right.
all the exports and imports and whatnot, but the money just in retail spending, it's 140 million from 2023. So if you wanted something quick, easy, and dirty, it's provided by the state. That'll give you like one resource to get the conversation started. And obviously there are experts that can provide more backup and increase that number. But 140 million just in retail spending between the Nantucket and the mainland.
Excellent. Mary?
Thank you. I want to thank Seth for his comments on the science of it. I really appreciate that. I also want to follow up on Leslie's comment about the Martha's Vineyard Commission and the Cape Cod Commission not being interested in this issue, which I also find mind-boggling. But if we're doing an economic impact study, it seems to me that reaching out to both of those commissions could really help strengthen that. And the fact is they have staff and funds that we don't have. So it might be, if we're able to talk to them, if they're interested in collaborating, it might be that they can help get the study done.
Good thought. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. just
Yeah,
that,
please.
Why you have your science hat on? Can you, it's probably, I don't know if this is really gonna work, but we have, the shark tracker and they're going out and they're tagging the sharks. I don't know if that was something where they could be redirected into tagging whales because there's such a limited amount. Would that something that would work or would that cause harm to the whale? I'm just kind of trying to think of different things we could use as far as technology. Maybe, on our apps, we can ping them and find where they are exactly and track them from here to there. So I don't know if that was a possible solution. So, and I know that may not be your expertise, but would that be something we should investigate?
I mean, it is not in my expertise, but the Marine Mammal Protection Act is probably going to make that a little bit more difficult than working with sharks, and also there's just the size and the fact of right whales being so endangered. It doesn't really make sense to do that. But there are already existing today non-invasive acoustic detection technologies that supplement visual record. So right now, basically, people know that there's a whale in an area if they physically saw it or if it was acoustically pinged. And Noah will say, even if there's no detection, it doesn't mean that the whale isn't present. And that very well may be true, but it's more as a concern of not having a robust enough sensor network, right? Because a lot of these studies are founded by or done by universities or unlimited budgets or whatever. And I think that if push came to shove, ferry companies would be much more willing to even put up money to, have detectors installed rather than to be out of business for 6 months of the year or permanently. And if, I don't work for ferry companies, so I can't speak about their finances, but I think logically from a practical perspective, it helps to be part of the technology rather than just being shut out completely. And I think that there's got to be money out there to, if the goal is to have actually more data on whales, having more sensors would be beneficial to everybody. So there's got to be some type of compromise there. And I will say too, we are lucky to be on Nantucket and in this region generally, because we have some of the most renowned whale research institutes anywhere in the world. We have Provincetown Center for Coastal Studies. We have NOAA in Woods Hole. We have a lot of resources available to us of people who are actually experts in this field. And we should ask those people for non-biased third-party opinions as well, because I think everyone's assuming, oh, all scientists think we should do this because everybody loves whales, right? Scientists like scientists like data-driven policy. That's the whole point of doing research, is to better inform management of whatever you're studying. Scientists don't want blanket policies that disregard their research to go into place. They want it to be based on their data, so they should be involved too.
Great, thank you. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, so I just wanted to echo, Seth has some good comments there. One of the other institutions in Woods Hole is the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, and they're very active in supporting the detection of right whales, whether it's through buoys or whether it's other monitoring activities. As speakers there earlier mentioned about know more about right whales than ever need to know. One of the sessions I was at, they talked about tagging them, and the take back from that was that because of the blubber on them, that the tags don't stay on them very long, unlike the sharks. So, but I'm not a scientist, so I'll defer to anyone that knows differently.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That's my question.
Okay. Well, what do y'all want to do? There's a number of different options here, but I'm afraid the biggest bugaboo in that whole mix is going to be time to do things. I would dearly love to get more people on board with this, but I'm not sure if the time is available under which to do it. I think at a minimum, at least asking the select board to see if they want to do something jointly with FinCom and or other things like Chamber of Commerce. I actually even in listening to the conversation, even actually thought too about the school system as well,
Sports.
because that's something that would be very easily missed in the bigger and grander scheme of things. Reaching out to our representatives is a very important piece of information. Just listening to you all, I think given the opportunity, an economic study would be good. But I'm afraid it's a function of time and money.
There isn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, no, this goes back to the economics. Like, you don't even have to think about it. It's like, this is like a meteorite landing on Main Street.
I get it.
I mean, it's so big that I don't think that people understand how big it really is unless you live in it and understand it.
Yep.
So the 100, like John said, 100 million or a billion. I mean, I don't know what it is. All I just know is that we'd be back in the mid-20th century in about 2 seconds.
But
I
think you also have to listen a little bit to Seth as well too.
Yeah, I
because
know. I love what he said. That's the stuff that should have already been happening though.
Right, but more importantly, that when whatever we yield to them is going to have to be somewhat data driven as well too. There's really the thing. So even though maybe we can't get data on some of these things, we can allude to it. But we definitely are going to need to get some concrete examples in there to do it. And I think Mike was able to provide one for us at this point. So that's a good start.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
So question regarding the consultations. Can anybody request a consultation with NOAA? Because it sounds like the process can't conclude without consultation. So naturally, by definition, the more consultations, the longer it will take. So, can you just basically send out that link to all the people who you think might even be considering this and say, would you even just consider this? And then we could kind of take the next steps from there, because that seems like the only way to make this process last longer than the current schedule that's laid out for us.
Yep, that's a good point.
Well, I mean, at least at the very first, we should schedule, we should reach out to, as you mentioned, FinCom, all these other, and try to schedule a meeting, but as well as Seth says, who seems to be the man of all the good ideas, and we appreciate that, is to also send that link information to those different town agencies and see, or departments, and see if they're willing to schedule an appointment as well.
Yep.
And nonprofits.
And nonprofits, you know, Land and Water Council, maybe the Land Bank, I don't know, and stack that process while we figure out what our next step.
Community sailing, I mean, it's everything. Everything.
Yep, and I think that, you know, our approach is solution-based, as Seth has suggested, as well as economic.
Yep.
Concerns.
Even the yacht clubs.
Yeah.
In fact, all the racing. On this programs, operas.
May I jump in with one more suggestion? This is potentially also a mental health issue. One of the things we learned during COVID was how much isolation increases social and emotional vulnerability. You know, and that's talking about, you know, taking away the sports activities from the kids, you know, not being able to go as easily to Hyannis. You know, there are a lot of social and mental health impacts that this would have as well.
Mm-hmm.
You might reach out to some of the mental health organizations to speak on this.
Yep, that's another idea. Absolutely.
And add the media, you know, get the current and the Inky and everybody.
Yeah, you know, they're aware of it.
Yeah, have they?
They're aware of it. That's the
like,
killer here.
publishing
What
the links, you know, to submit comments, that kind of thing.
I would probably say it's not a bad idea to get it out to them, but I think what I'd like to do is, if this commission is so inclined, is get Mike involved with, because Mike, you've really been good about getting transportation information out in conjunction with the town. So I think we, you know, instead of necessarily being dependent upon other individuals as well too, we maybe take the bull by the horns ourselves and get that out there if we can. Just to call further attention to it. I think the more places we can plug that into, the better. Because, you know, as much as we mention all these organizations, we have no clue what their alignment is going to be with certain things. I mean, you talk about like the Land Council, for instance. Well, they, you know, it depends on what side of the coin they want to fall on to something like that. And other organizations are going to be doing that same thing. Not everyone's going to want to jump into the same boat that we're potentially jumping into at this point. So be a little prepared for that as well.
I mean, I'm
But
all for the whales.
Yeah.
But I think we've laid out very, you know, like Mary's point about there not being any whales in that part that we're talking about, like
Right.
send the sound and Seth's science absolutely solves, you know, the problem in a more responsible.
I think that the more practical based solutions we can offer, the more concrete data that we can offer. And again, a half an hour is not a lot of time to try to punch all that together into what all they're going to do is just listen, which is a little problematic because you really don't get any feedback in any way, shape, or form, but nonetheless, we need to do that. You know, and as, I mean, I think we're all going to say we love the whales. We want to do all the right things by the whales. And maybe I'm going to be a little heretical at the moment, but I'm going to do this anyways. What we're missing is the human factor here and what that really is going to boil down to in terms of this island and what that means. I mean, you're talking about potentially financially crippling this island. You're probably talking at an exodus on this island. That would happen.
Yeah, push.
There's, you know, as much as we can summate the economics, there's a lot more to it than that. Imagine, you know, if you were to take the lowest 10% of individuals who live here and try to calculate in what that means for them, they're probably going to be packing their bags and leaving and going elsewhere. And what does that mean? Because now all of a sudden you're hitting on all those topics like essential services that they provide, whatever they contribute to the island economically, just in terms of being here as residents. There's a lot more, there's a lot of this is like a diamond, and there are so many facets that are there that really need to be explored with this. But there is that counterbalance that needs to be addressed as well too. And I think that's something we need to get a little serious about in terms of doing that. Yeah, go ahead.
So if I understand, we can request a conference.
Yes.
According to Bob, it could be 30 days or a little bit more, but not very much time to prepare a 30-minute presentation with all these points and all these things. What are the next steps to, obviously request the conference, get other people to do the same. You talked about getting a meeting together, maybe having saying the same thing. Or, so that it kind of has one voice.
Yeah.
Many times over, but it seems like we need an action plan of how we get, if they turn around and give us that conference in 30 days, how can we move that quickly?
Yep.
This is like.
Don't,
New.
Leslie, don't look
new
like you're in the
water.
headlights right
Yeah.
now. Because you know where I think you can summate where we need to go with this. It's this unfortunately, I think. For as many things as we have to do as a commission and as Plus proper, this is a big one.
Right.
This one kind of is gonna have to maybe eclipse some other things for a little bit. Until we can get this situated, because frankly, if we can't get this together within that time period. A year from now, we might not even be having these kinds of meetings in any way, shape, or form, or addressing the island finances in Exodus. That'll be a very different conversation. So go ahead.
And I don't see those other RPAs jumping in because they clearly don't believe that they have the impact to make it their problem, right? So, the vineyard was such a short run. They might lose one boat when they have how many? And then New Bedford, I just don't think we can, I don't foresee us being able to count on them for support here. I wish we could, but I think that they're gonna see it as our problem and not as much theirs, even though I agree, but that seems to be the response right now.
Yeah. I don't think there's any harm trying one.
No,
for
I
us.
agree, but I don't think we should hang our hat on.
Yeah. Pardon?
Well, the Cape definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
Cape should be.
all over this. No, I agree.
The Vinnie Commission, I think, should be too. Simply because. What Bob said about like losing a few boats, it is very confusing, this change of schedules to that level. It's like taking, I sort of came up with my own little thing, I like to be simple. Say all trucks driving across the country is 65 miles an hour. Suddenly they're going 45. You got 14-hour days, sleep, all that stuff that's plugged into a driver in 2024. This isn't 1974, like they have the things in their trucks for their hours and all that. It would change everything throughout the entire country, just like that.
What would it be
That's
for the food trucks?
It would
here
be the
that
most.
come off and on.
No,
one
the food
day?
trucks here are delivered to Hyannis and they come on the Sun trucks, but it would just screw up everything. Like we saw last week with one boat getting sort of delayed, the Eagle had this issue and the Woods Hole came down here, the Sankaty had to go. There was all these things happening, and it screwed up everything just with one boat taken out of service for a few days. Like there was 50 trucks in the offsite lot, well, in different places on standby, like because those boats weren't running. And that's nothing compared to this. That's not even anything. So like Bob said, the boat's capacity, our boats are set up to be a certain size and whatever, over all these years of baking this stuff into the policy of how the system works. And all of a sudden, you'd have to have a boat that carried 4 times more, making 1 trip a day. Like, it's unbelievable to even think about it.
It's just kind of like the days of the
I
gas
mean,
prices
it's
and
just-
driving 55.
Question.
Yeah, please.
They talked about, economic impact over 100 million, they just can't implement this.
Right.
What if it gets implemented and then because they're just pushing it and they don't have enough people getting awareness, but then an economic study has
No, that's
proven that
a
it's
good point.
way
Forgot about
above
Great.
100 million. I mean, then there's just proof that they can't continue to keep that implemented.
Yeah.
On Nantucket, and it's obviously over 100 million. I mean, all we're talking about is time to prove it.
You're 100% correct. There's the whole
I
element.
think that's a really good
That,
question.
and what she just said, analyzing what the impact is so, it's, I know they're using a number, you're right. I'm sitting there like, listen to John, it could be $1 billion. Like, how do you even start? Like, you don't even know how to calculate the numbers that this means.
The question is, can we get a retroactive waiver if we prove that after it goes into effect? And I think that is a great question.
So I think we should try to
Do that and answer.
doing that economic, to that economic study, regardless of how soon it's gonna take, or how long it's
And
gonna
we should
take.
try to get that answered, the question about what happens if we produce the information, a month after they implement it. I think that's a great question. I
Yeah.
don't know who would get that answered by.
Go ahead, Leslie.
I just think step one is getting a letter together, submitting it, and perhaps raising the question of, the $100 million threshold, and just getting that out there. Like,
Yep.
We question that, we contest it, and, we would like additional time to get more information to you. to
And that could be
consider.
part of the statement we have when we have our meeting, along with cess points and along with some certain other things.
Yeah. So,
Barry,
yes,
through you to Mr. Davis, please. Assuming that these regulations were put into effect, what is the penalty for violating them?
Mhm.
I'm asking Mr. Davis, assuming that he's familiar with that.
Yeah, so actually, so the proposal was that vessels would be monitored via the AIS feature that we have on our vessels to make sure that we're not exceeding the 10 knots. And, this is another case where they're not even taking into account weather conditions, where sometimes we may need to be going in excess of 10 knots because of weather conditions. So I don't recall that there was a fine, fines that could be levied. Off the top of my head, I forget what those were. They weren't unsubstantial. So I mean, if they're doing it on the basis, if we run 7,000 trips to Nantucket during the course of the year, and it's $10,000 or $20,000 a trip. I don't recall what the actual number was, but it could end up being very substantial. And then the question would be raised as to whether there'd be an additional enforcement feature to it. So
One of the reasons I'm asking, not suggesting that the steamship authority should break the law on our behalf, but one way to demonstrate economic impact would be to do exactly what you're just saying. How many trips are run? What would be the penalty to be able to continue to run them in the way that the island needs to be served? And that's a demonstration of the potential economic impact that it would, that being able to live on Nantucket would have.
right.
yeah, that'd be an approach, I believe.
Okay. Leslie, I'm gonna look at you.
That's no thing, beginning of it.
So should we be looking for someone to do an impact study for us, you think?
I think we may be a little ahead of ourselves there, but yes, I would
I
say
mean,
that,
just
but
because we look doesn't mean we're buying. I mean, but
Right.
at least we could have someone in place if we can find the funding.
It was a good suggestion to talk to our state reps, right?
Yes, for some money or
yeah, I mean, basically what I have down here right now are the state reps, what we need to do locally with select board, FinCom et al. Getting some type of letter out and then doing an economic study. Those are like the 4 key points that I see emerging out of this right now. Getting the letter out may, if nothing else, be the first step, because Mr. Davis, correct me if I'm wrong, they could pull the trigger on this at any time, correct?
Yeah, I'm not certain as to what time frame they're actually accepting testimony through. As soon as I became aware of it, I requested our people to put that request in, and it ended up being in early part of June here, so it was about a little over a month out, so I'm not sure, again, what the time frame is. I am also under the impression, don't hold me to this, that once there's the Office of Regulatory Affairs makes their ruling, that there's a 30-day comment period on that as well. So I don't know, but again, someone told me that, and I haven't seen that in writing. So hopefully that's the case, because that might provide the opportunity to, if an economic impact study takes longer than it takes to, the time frame for the testimony, that, hopefully it could be submitted afterwards.
Sounds good. All right. Is there anything else we want to add to that punch list?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Don, does the select board have any plans on this, or have they discussed it in any capacity?
Yeah, last fall they did. Pretty sure.
Are they aware of these?
Oh, she's there.
Dawn?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah, hi.
where were we? I had to step away for a second.
No problem. Go ahead, ask your question again.
So I was just curious, Don, if the select board has discussed this or is aware of these new what transpired in March, and if they are discussing it or have any plans such as we're talking about here.
Yes, the town manager has been in contact quite a bit with the steamship, and I think it's time for us to have a Wednesday night discussion on it.
Yeah.
In light of this discussion and trying to, add further light to the whole process.
So, Don, besides the MP and EDC, would you want to bring it through the county commissioners? Would you want to do it more on or on a local level with select board, FinCom at all?
I think definitely select board probably acting as the county commissioners, but inviting FinCom to participate would probably be a wise idea.
Okay. And what about Chamber of Commerce, high school? I'm just trying to think if there's other.
I think it might be worthwhile for the chamber or like the high school athletics department to at least write letters.
Okay.
For us to present.
Would
if
you
not ask for their own audience, but I think that at least to go through these two boards, NPNEDC and the county commissioners.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I represent the NPDC on the chamber. So
Oh, there you go.
I can ask for this to be an agenda item.
Good.
At our next meeting.
All right. So Leslie, if we're so inclined to want to get a letter out at this point, are there resources that you're going to need to do under which to do that? Or is there anything you need from us to help in that process?
I don't think so right now, but when I have a little more time and get into it, I may need something, but I don't think anything that you would need to vote on tonight.
Okay, all right. I hate to put more stuff on your plate, but can you reach out to our reps?
Yes.
Like Marky, see where they're at, and then also re-engage back with the places like Serped and the Cape Cod Commission for one final round.
I mean, I think it would be helpful to send them some of the information that we've received tonight.
Okay.
And to send them your letter.
Yep.
So they have a little more background information. I mean, all that I asked Mike to do was just a preliminary email, just to ask them if their commissions were discussing this and if they were involved.
Yeah.
Did we do this for the bridges too?
We sent a letter for the bridges.
Yeah.
And I think other.
Right.
That came through MassDOT, so I think a lot of communities.
This would be like knocking the bridges down.
Oh my
in
god,
Nantucket.
but that's like,
I
that's
mean,
equally the
I just
other
don't think,
crisis.
I honestly believe that the athletic director for the school texted me. I was scrolling through trying to find it. Do you think this could really happen there? And it's like, it's so incredibly unbelievable to think about that it seems impossible. Like, this is like really like
We need to get
impossible.
to the president. and
That's
have
why I
getting
can't
that
believe,
message.
that's why this is not becoming more. Like, it's like unbelievable to believe that it could happen, but that's for us though. People that know how everything works without having to have all these details, you
Right.
know what I mean? And that's the problem with this, it's like, if this was something happening. In a large city or somewhere that was on the news all the time, it would be different, but this is like a completely impossible thing to understand if you don't live here. Or work here, or, you know. Whatever, so, anyway.
And I don't know if that's something that needs to go in the letter. The simple statement that basically says, this is your wake-up call. You may be in denial of it or believe that nothing's gonna come out of this, but we are gonna urge you very differently. And compel you to deal
This
with
makes
it.
every issue that's ever come up in the last 30 years go away in 2 seconds.
I know, go ahead.
You've mentioned a letter and you've mentioned a letter. Can I just ask who's writing the letter?
Well, that's something, that's something you shouldn't have asked. Cause that's almost as good as volunteering to like, I'll draft the letter. No, this is why I asked Leslie what resources, if that,
I was planning on drafting the letter
yes,
and then having it sent around for comment.
yeah,
Excellent, thank you. See, there was a simple answer.
there is, no, that's,
A better answer than.
we had to tease for a minute, it's better by now. But no, you'll have your opportunity under which to do that.
And just something that Mary said, Barry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, I'm just.
Yes, you do.
My
That's
head
okay.
is spinning so much.
Okay, I still,
I just,
I
one of the
do.
things, Leslie, is the talking about money isn't necessary as much. This is human life. This is like living here will just complete, I'm sure you've got that written down.
Yeah, I'm sure she
Like
did.
the what Mary talked about, the social, economic, health, doctors, cancer appointment things that happen in Hyannis. I mean,
Like he wants to write.
it's not even, it's, the money part's almost secondary when you think about the life that we have since the boat went to Hyannis in 1985 has completely changed Nantucket. Forget the fast
Right.
boats. Now it's,
But not,
yes.
the money is the one thing that's gonna get us out of it.
No, I understand.
You're so right.
Christina, I meant the whole, we're all
Oh,
millionaires on
legal.
Nantucket in a sort of like that
Yourself.
other jerk.
We all know the human impact, but the one thing
Yeah.
that's gonna get us out of it.
No, I agree with you on that billion,
That's
100
it.
million thing. I'm talking about focusing on money. Makes us sound like, oh, the rich people in Nantucket are gonna be like affected. Oh,
Yeah.
it's not like
But-
that. It's like the beautiful people thing with Howie Carr. This is not
The
like
people that
that.
can least afford it will be affected the most by it.
Right,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Bert in 10 seconds, but what I want to go back to, Leslie, is the decennial census data.
Mhm.
For us should begin to help pinpoint what I call it. Again,
Yeah.
I don't mean this to sound the wrong way, but who's gonna be affected within certain economic classes with this thing? And I think that's another way to bring in not only the finances. Not only to bring the finances into play, but also the fact of how many potential lives are gonna be impacted by this thing as well, too. Yeah, boy, there's just so many touchstones here, it's not even funny.
Yeah, you can't even list it all.
And the other thing too, which might be a quick piece of data we can get our fingers on. What if the hospital can tell us how many people go off island for appointments?
And we can ask.
Yeah.
No, I'm just wondering, because again, I look at it from,
So much. Therapy.
If it's through Mass General, it's all in their gateway.
Yeah.
Which includes Dana-Farber as well.
or maybe Mr. Davis can maybe give us some information about how many vehicles are traveling back and forth on the steamship that are carrying medical necessity patients. I'm just looking to get my fingers on something here as well, too. You know, we can't make a next cancer appointment. I'm so sorry. Not good. But
Or
there's,
maybe
there's,
we can make a motion to request the meeting with Noah or the office or whatever.
we're gonna get there. We are gonna get there. And I know this is taking a bit, but I'm sorry to say you hear times, again, I'm just gonna say real quickly, time is short. We're having to try to flesh this thing together in the best way we possibly can. And I know I'm gonna state the obvious, but the impact to the island is just incalculable here. And we're gonna try to attach that. Bert? Hi.
Yeah, a couple of things on patients coming back and forth, being one of those that went across to Cape Cod Hospital today for an appointment. You're not gonna find, it's gonna be tough to find that information because I just went down and bought my high-speed ticket and went across and came back again. The hospital had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, and on the other thing, this is so important that we should get the Nantucket Current involved and speak to their editor, and we should get our local Inquirer Mirror editor involved, because this is going to be the most important story on the island if this goes through.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
And sorry I was late to the meeting, but I had a conflicting Memorial Day Parade Committee meeting at 5 o'clock as well. So
No
the
problem.
parade's all squared away. So we'll look for you up there, Barry, marching in the parade with the selectmen this year.
Dawn?
I don't know if it's worth highlighting, but when we talk about the medical part, I think about the fact that we're moving forward with trying to reconstruct our island home and the impact that it would have if we're unsuccessful with the inevitable of people having to put loved ones on the Cape.
Yep.
Would be really, really impacted by this as well. Just as another human aspect and another something we can show that we're going to be asking for a lot of money to rebuild the island home to provide those kind of services on the island.
Yep. Seth?
Thank you. 2 quick points. One is in relation to what Mary said earlier about this being a social and emotional or mental health issue too. It's not just about the lack of services that's provided, but it's also about some people, because of whatever circumstances they have going on, physically or mentally or emotionally, cannot be on a boat for 3 hours. It's not going to work for them. They need that quick, short 1-hour trip, or else there's going to be scenarios that affect them that they're going to opt to not go. And that's catastrophic too. I mean, when you talk about how this affects the lifestyle, it affects the whole lifestyle of Nantucket, and it also affects people individually in many different ways. And this is why I think that having more voices from the community is super important. And the last thing I'll say on this is the federal government, and to some extent, even our state government, doesn't understand that these projections that we're talking about, if this really went into place and there was a 10 knot speed restriction, all these projections that Mr. Davis is talking about, there being 2 trips a day, that's based on optimal conditions. That's not if there's any weather concerns. That's not if there's any crew shortages. That's not if there's any mechanical failures. Those 2 conditions could easily become 0 for multiple days on end. And that is a problem. People need to know that, you plan for optimal conditions, but running a business, you're not hitting 100% efficiency in any business. It's just the reality. So we have to consider the fact that it's not even gonna be as bad as they're talking about. It's gonna be much worse on some days.
Oh, great. Okay. So. 4 things I have, or definitely the requested consultation, which will require a letter. Reaching out to the select board, FinCom, wherever else we can think of, reaching out to our state reps. We'll see what happens with Marper, and then finally, maybe if time is available to us to look at doing an economics study of some type.
Barry, you should also reach out to our federal reps, state, federal senator.
I'm sorry,
That's already been mentioned.
yeah, I'm sorry, that you're 100% correct.
And Barry, and
Yeah.
maybe to Bob Davis, but my understanding is it doesn't take a letter to create a meeting time with NOAA. It's going on a portal and requesting it online.
Is that correct?
He's on the phone, I think, but that did.
But not with NOAA, with the.
Yeah, with the.
With that,
office,
with the
so,
office,
But
yeah.
I don't think it's about writing a letter to them. I think it's about just, and so I think we could probably both
Somebody
have
has to work
Leslie
on
or,
that.
or staff do that ASAP.
And that's
yeah.
like, yeah,
I saw those as two different tasks.
Okay, well, and he mentioned letter to get the meeting, but maybe I was confused.
That's okay. That's okay. You can tell we're trying to work our way through this as diligently as possible. All right.
okay.
Yeah, Bob's off with that.
Leslie, you good with everything we
I'm good.
talked about?
Yep.
All right.
We need to vote on that.
So I would suggest, go ahead, Dave.
But I think Bob's got his hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just confirming. You don't need to submit a letter. You just have to log into the portal and and request a hearing time and date.
Okay. Oh, we can request a hearing time and date. As far in the future as possible.
I don't know whether you actually get that. They just give you the next available one, I think.
Sure.
Okay, LMB.
Okay. How do you want to proceed, everyone? Because I
that-
want to do this as a motion so that we have.
I just think we need to just give direction to what we've been discussing.
Yeah, I think, no,
And
and
that's-
Barry had it right there. Can you read it one more time?
Yeah, I can. So, and I did try to prioritize these as well too. So we're gonna request a consultation. And there's a letter that has to follow up underneath that. So I'm gonna include those as one item. The second thing is to reach out to the county commissioners / select board / FinCom to try to pull something together there and see where that goes. Third thing is to reach out to state and federal reps, Keating, Markey, whoever is going to listen to us, who represents us. And then in the longer range of things, because when we talked to Marper was the other thing too. Marper MAPC worth one last try. That should be short and sweet. And then when we're hopefully talking to state and federal reps, we can see if there's any money or group available that could help us with performing an economic study under which to do it. But that's another thing. If time is available to us, I think we should do. Does that sound like a relatively logical series of things? And
Barry, can I ask where in that would outreach to the Cape Cod Commission and Martha's Vineyard Commission fit?
that's going to be somewhere between, in no specific order, is getting the select board, FinCom et al. On that.
So as many interested parties as you can, or you're fitting into that category?
Yeah, so I'm again, that's just the way my mind is working through it at the moment, but it falls somewhere a little further down the list as we're reaching out to all these various groups. Does that help?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that they hadn't disappeared from the list. Thank you.
No, I thought I had mentioned them, but I'm sorry.
And Barry, if I may, that would be included in MARPA. They're part of MARPA.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Hold on, Lacey.
Anything else? All right. So if that sounds like a game plan, I would love someone to make a motion to approve those action items that we'll need to do to get
I'll
here.
make that motion.
And do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion on the issue.
Name who made it seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mary made the initial. Thank you for reminding me, Dave. Mary made the proposal that was seconded by Dave. Let's do a roll call vote if there's no further discussion at this point. Mary Longacre,
Aye.
Seth Engelboard,
Aye.
Don Hill Holgate,
Aye.
Bert Johnson,
Aye.
Christina Jelemy, Wendy Hudson,
Aye.
Joe Topham,
Aye.
Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Nat Lowell,
Aye,
and the chair votes affirmative as well. Thank you all.
thank you.
Be prepared.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Bob.
It's
Hang on.
important.
Thank you,
Yes.
Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
And don't hesitate to reach out to us if you can think of something else through Leslie.
Same here if you need anything from us. So thank you. Have a good night.
We may be chatting with you. Thank you. All right. Where are we at? How are we doing, everyone? Do you want to continue for a little more?
Yeah.
We got a few more things we need to do. I will tell you that items C and D are pretty straightforward at the moment. There's not a lot that will occur in discussion. But B is kind of a big thing, which is our area plan guidelines. You want to take C and D out of order first, or do you want to, and then see where we're at? No, okay. All right. So area plan guidelines, you've all had an opportunity to review it. This will be another iteration that we've gone through with it. I think Leslie and staff did a good job about maybe reducing some of the things that were in there and getting to the real meat of what's involved for the functionality of making an area plan work, both in terms of committing resources to it as well as what it's going to look like in the end analysis of what everyone has to comport with under which to do it. So I don't think there's a lot more we can streamline out of that. But again, the idea here would be is if you're all good with it, it sets the monument for the future, but it's also, I believe, going to have to set the monument for what we currently have out there for the area plan guidelines as well. So there are currently 2 on the deck that are active at the moment, which is Nantucket and the downtown area. And that's going to be, if these are approved, that's going to be, here you go. This is what this is now. Again, you can see we've gone to great length to try to make sure that we're offering resources to those people in the area plans so that they can successfully complete the process. Monomoy is going to have to be another touchstone, but we definitely need to reach back out to them. I will honestly say, I think too much time has elapsed, but again, getting this part of it finalized so that we understand this is the minimum that they're going to have to comport to with it would be a good thing. And that way we're all back on the same page one more time. I mean, we can't turn the clock backwards with anything, but we can try to move ahead in a rational fashion. And I think fair fashion as well, too, for all the parties involved. I think we've learned some valuable lessons out of that as well. I think we've learned some valuable lessons out of it. We may have overreached a little bit at one stage, and now we need to do it in a much more prudent fashion because what worked well in the past, for instance, was having a staff person available at this as well as a representative from the Planning and Economic Development Commission.
And we had Rima helping us with some of this stuff too in the past, but we didn't have the open meeting law stuff as much. The rules weren't as strict. We didn't have to have somebody taking minutes. And in Nantucket, and I know you're on that committee, Joe, but I just always have to keep saying this. That is not a new plan. They have a plan.
Right.
This is an update.
Right.
The town one is new. That's completely new. So there are different people involved in Nantucket now than there was, I think, in most cases. But it does seem like it's harder. But it's because of the rules that are in place now that weren't in the 2000s decade,
All right.
right?
Mr. Chair, can I speak to that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
sure.
a lot of us want to speak to that actually, because you may get challenged here a little
Well, I'm
bit.
just trying to
Ladies
just,
first.
No, that's okay. So Mary, I'll let you pick up.
Thank you. So I want to point to just one piece of the proposed regulation, and it's not on the screen yet. I don't know if we can bring that up, but there's an item that says an area plan should be completed for review by the NPDC within 1 year of its formation.
Yep.
I think that sentence, first of all, needs to be clarified because the language is very nebulous there. But also, I don't think, given the open meeting law requirement, that 1 year is a realistic timeframe. I think what that's going to do is either going to require heavy involvement from staff, and if that's the intent, then that's fine, but it should be made clear. Or it's going to really push the neighborhood groups to work independently, not with NPDC, either before they come to NPDC for authorization or during the process. As Nat said, open meeting law is really restrictive on being able to do any work outside of a posted meeting. And, you know, the town area plan committee is meeting twice a month. And as you all know, it's well past a year.
Yeah.
I just don't think that given there is the time demands of this exercise, particularly on a new plan, and given that all of the people that volunteer for this have other things going on in their lives, meetings get canceled for holidays, they get canceled for conflicts with other meetings, they get canceled for lack of a quorum. I just don't think 1 year is a realistic time frame without a tremendous level of support. So I wanted to offer that comment. Thank you.
And I want to touch on that for a little bit because I think it's important to pick up on the second sentence there as well too. Is that I think we do need to give them some type of timeline under which to accomplish it, as opposed to letting things languish for periods of time. If you don't tell people that you need certain things done within certain timeframes, they're going to adopt their own timeframes, and then things may drag on. I think initially starting out with a concept of when we're doing this, that, okay, it'll be within a year. But if you need to, and this is where that second sentence is so important, extensions to the deadline will require an appropriate explanation and can be granted by the NP and EDC. In other words, where are we at? If you guys are working on something that is so vital and so important, I don't think anyone on the NP and EDC would say no to you. But if those groups as well too are tasked with, okay, we need to get this done. People can say, oh, there's really no time frame here. I got to go on vacation for a month, or I don't need to be part of it, and they're an integral piece of it. So I think we do need, and again, any document that we produce is not etched in stone. It isn't. It can be changed over time. But I think this is important just to start this with a benchmark that tells people we're serious about it. And if other things come up, let's say all of a sudden Plus loses 3 staff members. I know Leslie's like, oh my God, please no. But if it did, it would require having to go back and revisit what that time frame is. But I worry about the fact that people left to their own devices will often languish with things. And I think we have seen that a little bit as well too. So
yeah, I think what you might do here is distinguish between an update, which I think could be accomplished within a year, and a new plan, which I would suggest 18 months as a more realistic time frame.
I hear you, and I thank you for doing that. I'm going to disagree with that. But anyways.
If I can just
Yeah, go ahead.
speak really quickly here. Listen, I think that we've had a hard time getting participation in some work groups, and it's important, and we don't want that membership to flip. And I think that if we're a little more liberal in the time frame, I think it will help us get more buy-in and more input. And that's my piece.
So what's the trajectory? I'm not going to let it drop at that. I need, if you're going to suggest.
I would think that, I think Mary's idea is better, in my opinion.
You guys feeling like 18 months would be a little more generous? in
I do.
terms of doing that?
I do, speaking for the Nantucket area.
Okay.
I mean, here's the other thing.
Let's
are you
pick
able
on the
to-
topic.
I am.
Good, okay,
I-
thank
I'm
you.
on
I'm
that.
sorry, you
Are
sound like you
able
were
to-
winding
well,
up.
They didn't have Zoom in the mid-2000s when I was
That's
on
true.
these things. Are you using Zoom with them? Because people, the biggest issue is people are not here year round.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
that's been,
yeah.
you know, the
Yeah.
big one.
So,
So,
so Nantucket, basically what happened is, Chairman Mendel, he is not letting anyone rest. So
Good.
it was 3 or 4 meetings, get everyone up to speed, education on open meeting laws, et cetera. And now what we've done is now we have the 9, well, 8 categories, but we've made 9. Megan Trudell has now set up a Microsoft team, OneDoc. So they're all
Good.
All the photos are there. Basically, what we want to do is have, if someone from a group works on something, it's there and they'll get a notice and they can go in and read what happened. But within that group of 8, we've all broken up the team members.
Yeah.
So they may be on a 5 on a team or 2 on a team, but now we can not use town remote, we can use our own remote. So someone could be in England or whatever, and I could have a conversation with them about one of our tasks, and then that minutes would be then uploaded and going forward. So we're trying to divide and conquer in different ways. So it seems to be working. We really just getting started, but
Yeah.
I think that that's gonna be a really effective way. I would say max 1 person has missed 1 meeting, but then the next are there, so there's no problem getting a quorum. It's most people are very, very engaged in Nantucket, so that is not our problem.
Excellent.
But I do think that the 18 months would be wise, and I'm here every month, or Mary will be here every month giving updates.
Yep.
So I think if we're early, that's great. But if we need that 18 months, but I think that would be, or 18 months would be really wise from that perspective, but yeah, Nantucket's boots on the ground there.
Yeah.
Which is good.
I think Leslie would be thrilled with 18 months as well. Would that help with the
18 months is fine.
from a staffing perspective? Okay.
Yeah, in my experience with the area plans, back when I staffed them,
Yeah.
it is sort of hard to keep them moving at times because of, this summer, people want to take the time off and enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the seasonal nature of residents, which now we have Zoom and it doesn't matter, but I think that, for whatever reason, we got away from providing consistent staff report to the plans. I think that is where everything has sort of gone off the tracks.
Yep.
With any particular one, but across the board, because when we had a staff person there at most of their meetings, the staff person was able to keep them going in the right direction and to prompt them on, next steps.
Right.
And I think leaving the area plan members to sort of navigate this on their own, which is something they probably don't do in their normal life.
Yep.
Has created issues that might not otherwise exist.
Okay. And that sounds like a fair analysis. Yeah, to what you were saying earlier, though, I don't think it's gotten more complex over time. I think it's just that when we were doing area plans in the past, there was a very informal understanding of what went on, and staff was there to support that understanding of what was happening. And the moment we kind of lost staff and or a potential contact person from the NP and EDC, it took on another life of its own.
Yeah.
So are you guys good with changing that to 18 months?
Yes.
All right,
I was
that's
gonna say,
Yeah,
okay.
just one more piggyback thing on Nantucket. I feel that after this is done, they would like to keep meeting, maybe not every month, but maybe every 3 to 4 months or every quarter. And really kind of look at the documents. What is, maybe after a season, what happened to Nantucket? What was the change? Was there, busing, like that, like whatever. I think that they would want to keep this live and keep it moving.
Yeah.
That they're that involved, which is great.
I probably say, I don't know if we can commit that resource above and beyond to every 3 and 4 months once they've come to terminus with the plan.
Well,
But
so Mr. Mandel is writing the agenda and he's giving it and then they're uploading it. And
Yeah.
I'm in charge of Zoom.
Yep.
So I'm the one that's recording it, so I'm kind of taking that from, so we don't have to worry about a staff member, but I mean, they're on Zoom, so, or YouTube, so if someone wants to watch it later on or whatever, I mean, that's fine, it's there. So.
Right, but I think. In a different vein, I think hearing from them every so often would be great.
Yeah.
It's just it's a question of what, if they're looking for additional resources, though. I'm not sure at that, once we're done, we're gonna be done unless something comes up that really honestly just says. Yeah, we kind of need to get back in there. I just don't want it to be an
No, but I think we're gonna have the 2 town meetings, so I think that they're really involved in it.
Yeah, no, that's great.
That's why I think their focus is.
That's
And I
great.
think there should
Yeah.
be a mechanism for them to reach out to staff and say, hey, we're relooking at this,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's important, but for us for Joe to staff that or be there when they decide, I don't think that is a great use of board members' time
Right.
and resources, but there should be some avenue that they can reach out and say, hey, we're looking at this, and I don't know what that is, but I just think that it should be there.
I mean, I never truthfully, I'm sure you all feel the same way. I don't think when that area plan comes to its final conclusion for us, doesn't mean it's said, done and over with. It's a very living and breathing document. And there are times that we are gonna have to re-engage with it, but I guess what I'm saying to you is it shouldn't be on that frequent a basis, and now it'll have to be.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we should set up for it to be on a frequent basis, but if they.
Yeah.
If they choose to meet and they come up with something important, there should be an avenue for them.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of you
Yeah.
would say no if they came
Yeah.
back to us and said, oh, by the way.
No, of course we would.
But Leslie, please.
And we just add that once, I think one thing that could ease that is, once the area plan is adopted by the commission, then the area plan work group is disbanded. And they can feel free as a group of citizens to get together anytime they want and talk
Right.
about the area plan. And they're not subject to the open meeting laws.
Correct.
The meeting postings and the minutes and all of that stuff. And if they have ideas, they can come and ask to have the area plan amended.
Yep.
I agree. They would love that feedback too.
I'm sure
Yeah.
they will.
Yeah, no, it's
It's
that's
so funny how everyone just like, you throw in the open meeting laws and their heads explode. They're like, well, what? It's like, welcome to our world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it really hasn't changed though. That's just it. It's like I said, in the past, it was just a little bit more informal.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, and with prior area plans, before the 3 that are, I'll just say the 3 that are pending. They had the staff support, so they had, a chairperson working
Yeah.
with staff to put together
Yep.
a simple agenda.
Yeah.
We would have someone in the office post it. We did have someone from the group take the minutes, which that was not a staff function. But again, you had someone there like helping them along and guiding them. And again, I think it's all gone off the tracks by not having
Yeah.
that assigned staff support.
Right, so 2 things. Tell Megan, thank you. Microsoft Teams was a really good idea. Wow. I didn't know she had done that. That's fantastic. Does Microsoft Teams have the ability, besides recording the meeting, being able to do an AI digest?
Not,
I
It's,
believe it does.
all right, it's
We haven't
worth, okay.
used that yet. I mean, Leslie Forbes has been doing a great job in minutes, but yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I'm bringing that up is really twofold, because right now the town doesn't utilize that with Zoom, from what I can tell.
Yeah, there is a button on there to.
There is a button, but it doesn't always perform up to snuff. And let me tell you, just from other things that I have to do minutes for, just having it there at times is a godsend.
Great.
It's just another tool to be able to get at things.
And that would be
Although the
direct-
AI does get a little wonky at times.
Yeah, but that was one of the directions that I brought up to Megan, if we could, start to look into that. And then that's also part of the
Yeah.
database,
Yeah, Mary, are you using that function with the?
No,
town?
I had requested an evaluation of that some time ago.
Yep.
Through the from Maureen Coleman's arm.
Yep.
And she said that, yes, it is possible to use it, but not as a sole source. It would obviously need
Oh, yeah.
review and it would need approval. But yes, we got a provisional endorsement that feature could be used on Zoom.
So just administratively, I want to take 10 seconds. Will Megan want them to translate over to Microsoft Team for the downtown
I do
thing
not
as well?
know the
All right,
answer to that right now.
just you may want to touch with Megan there.
So I would just caution that when you give somebody a new technology, you should also give them instruction on how to use it.
Oh,
And
yeah,
not just the technology aspects, but also in concert with open meeting law.
right, but if it's gonna, the reason why I'm bringing it up is if it's gonna involve staff being in the process as well too. They need to have a voice and a weigh in on that, and especially if it's gonna be a level of administrative support, the tool should be really looked at heavily about what staff thinks will be the best tool to use.
I think Megan put in guidelines
Okay, great,
in my upload.
great. I don't necessarily have all the details on it,
No,
but
no,
I
I just got it basically.
But-
It's Friday.
yeah, this is about trying to keep things uniform as well too. In terms of how we do it. Are there any other comments on this? Or any other changes you'd like to see? If not, then what I would like to be able to.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Seth, hi, sorry.
that's okay. This is hopefully not as controversial, but in the section related to progress reports will be requested during the development. I think we should add some timelines to those, like whether they be quarterly or bi-monthly or what. Otherwise, it's just so arbitrary and nebulous that there's not a lot of accountability.
Okay,
Should it say? Quarterly? Yeah,
well, they're producing, all right, they're producing minutes. Okay, and your minutes really are strangely enough, start becoming your progress reports.
how about maybe instead of will? Is that?
No, I always think it's better to.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah, I
direct
mean-
and ask, and then back, and then you can always say, all right, well, you didn't get it done, we'll waive it. Yeah,
I know they're producing minutes, and I know obviously the staff and the representative is seeing that, but the whole commission isn't. So even just a quarterly executive summary of what's happening, I think is good. So that
Yeah.
it can be brought to the whole
Update.
commission.
100% agree.
Kind of an update quarterly.
yeah, all right, so you can change that to. Executive summary or something like that on a quarterly basis.
Yep.
Good, thank you.
And the other stuff is all set. The one, you crossed out the numbers, so the 1 through 8.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
Oh, yeah, that.
No, I know that's a typo. I'm just saying
That
we're
was,
clean with
You
that.
know, new version track changes, but it was old version actual strikeout, and so.
Yeah, I'm afraid to say, Leslie, that was the only way I could handle that, was to go back to the old fashioned method of dealing with it. Sorry, sometimes Word has its own little mind about things.
What about, Leslie, I don't want to make this meeting go longer, I'm starving, but
Well, now you're gonna have to bring.
I
something
don't
next
see
time.
any mention, and this is new, I know. Strategic plan overlap. I think we talked about this a little bit. I just don't remember when. The select board strategic plan, we got like lots of plans around here.
Yeah,
And trying to be sort of clean with this stuff. Even though the area plan process has been around a lot longer than these other plans have.
Yeah.
I'm just asking if that's something we should add or mention somewhere. It could be in the first part. At what list of the select board strategic plan may or may not fit into your. I don't know. That's just a thought. Maybe we should just forget it. I'm just saying that stuff is sort of can be duplicated, Leslie. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Some of these things are all sort of in line, or maybe that could be what it is. Something that's in line with the strategic plan, something like we have with the master plan. That's all.
So I would say, Nat, that for an area, it's such a small division of
fit.
the island that it may be appropriate for an
Yeah.
area in one aspect to not align with the plan. But we can certainly incorporate fit with the select board strategic plan into our comments.
That's
think
all I
that's
meant.
probably a
Just
better
a
approach,
mention,
yeah.
even a mention or something, Mary, because you're all, I forgot you were there listening to exactly what I'm saying. I'm not asking for any big change. I'm just asking for it to be recognized or looked at certain times where something's being duplicated. That's all I'm saying, especially like in town.
Well, I think that's probably the responsibility of the NP and EDC to do when they receive information from the area plan work group.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the select board strategic plans can change though in a heartbeat. They're not necessary just because they say they're locked into a 5-year period. If you get a monumental change with the select board, that can change right within several days. I think it's important for us to be able to stay within our wheelhouse.
yeah,
And if there's certain things that I think either the rep or staff are seeing that are like, oh, wait a minute, this kind of comports into it, they can certainly bring it up.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of this document, I'm afraid it starts lending itself toward greater confusion. And it's a question of what plan are we really looking at here? Are we looking at the area plan, or are we looking at the strategic plan of the select board? So I'd like to keep, at least personally, I'd like to keep this a little bit more pure.
Okay.
And that aspect. Okay,
yep.
you can disagree.
No, I don't. I'm
Okay.
just bringing it up.
Alright.
You know, it's all good. Thank you.
So, oh, you're welcome. Anything else?
Can I ask that we stop the screen share because there's nothing on the screen that we're discussing? We're just looking at the download site.
Oh, I thought you were seeing. Wait, what are you seeing?
She just
We're
wants
seeing
to
the
stop.
website with the NPNEDC packet and a list of documents.
Doesn't want, just hit stop share.
Oh, but she's seeing this.
She's
What
not
are you
seeing
seeing?
that.
She's seeing.
Hold on. Mary, did that clarify everything?
So now you're not sharing, and that's fine. Thank you.
You seen the screen
Okay.
behind?
She
But
wasn't seeing what we
the
were
area
seeing.
plan document was not on the screen for the Zoom participants.
Oh,
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 We were looking.
well,
yeah,
I didn't
no,
know.
it was.
I said that 20 minutes ago, but it didn't get.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't hear you, but it was up on our screen, so I don't know what the heck happened there.
It wasn't on my screen either.
It wasn't, okay. Do you guys need, let me just stop, in all fairness, do you need to go back to it?
No.
No, I have it
Okay.
on my own screen, so. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, but I may know why that happened. We'll talk afterwards.
Okay.
All right, so really, if there's no other discussion, are you prepared to move ahead here? Because if so, I would, again, not trying to tell you what to do. But if you think this is a good idea, it would be good for someone to make a motion to adopt the area plan guidelines that we have put into play here.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the guidelines with the addition of the word quarterly in front of progress reports and with the substitution of 18 months for 1 year.
Yeah.
1 year for 18 months.
Right. Right. The things we
Yeah.
talked about, the things that we talked about and agreed to. Yep.
Very good.
Second,
Motion's now made and seconded. Discussion on the issue.
Name Johnson. Names, Mary and Bert Johnson, first and second.
Oh, thank you for doing that. Yes, thank you for
Catherine.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Say it out nice and loud so they can hear it.
Mary made the motion and Bert Johnson seconded.
Thank you for doing that, just so she can hear it when she does the transcription. All right. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, let's do a roll call void at this point. Mary Longacre,
Aye.
Seth Engelborn,
Aye.
Bert Johnson,
aye.
Don Hill Holgate.
Aye.
Christina Jelmy,
Aye.
Wendy Hudson.
Aye.
Joe Topham,
Aye. Aye.
Dave Iverson. Thank you, Dave Iverson. Matt Wolf.
Aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative too. Thank you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to go through this too, because this is a big thing that we needed to kind of get back into play again and setting the tone for where we're heading to with the future with the area plans. That's a big thing for us. So that's really awesome. The build out analysis, Leslie, this is pretty perfunctory, isn't it?
it is. I'm asking you all to approve basically an amended contract with Weston and Sampson to complete the build out analysis. A contract was approved back in 2022. They have done some work on it. They need to do additional work and additional research, and that's what the $38,000 would fund.
Questions, comments?
Would this when it's done, then everything put into one document? Or were they kind of separate?
So there was a build out analysis done by Weston and Sampson as part of the CWMP that covered all the sewered areas. So this build out analysis is to cover the unsewered areas.
But then would then be one document or just two separate?
It would be two separate, so the sewered part that goes along with the CWMP, and then this would be separate for the unsewered.
Okay.
Just
Any other?
kind of point of clarification, where does the funding come from?
We have DLTA funding that's provided by the state. It has to be spent for pretty specific categories. One of them is planning for future growth. So that's what this would fall under.
Anything else? All right, if you're so inclined, Leslie's asking for
Make a
approval.
motion to approve the amended contract.
Yeah,
Second,
thank you. So that was made by Nat and seconded by Bert?
Yes.
No,
Okay.
so I think it was seconded by Joe. wasn't it?
Oh, was it seconded by Joe? I'm sorry.
Bert was
Give it to Bert.
A little louder.
That's what I love about you all. You're just so, it's kind of
I
like,
was sitting next to him, so I heard it.
yeah. Here's pass the sweet potatoes, pass the corn, you know. Family stuff. All right, so the motion's made and seconded, discussion. Hearing none, roll call vote at this point. Mary Longacre,
Aye.
Seth Engelboard,
Aye.
Bert Johnson,
aye.
Don Hill Holgate,
Aye.
Christina Jelmy,
Aye.
Wendy Hudson,
Aye.
Joe Topham,
Aye.
Dave Iverson, Nat Lowell,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye as well too. Okay, so that brings us to an ongoing discussion about our enabling legislation. This is now meant to be short and sweet. Leslie, do you want to kick off there or?
Yeah, so it's been a few months since the commission had their last discussion about the enabling legislation. And Barry and I talked about having an in-depth discussion in June, but this is just sort of to put it back on everyone's radar and to remind you where we've been and where we need to go. So the mission and vision you all agree to, the membership sectors you agree to, the financial structure you also agree to, which is essentially keeping it the way it's set up now. What we'll need to talk about in June is term lengths, the transition from current members to the new members, and one of the most important things, a potential new name.
Yep.
So, and then after that, the next step would be to, draft a new version of the legislation, get some help from council on that.
Yep.
And to get that, prepared for moving forward.
So, question, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we shooting for next annual town meeting?
I think that's something that commission needs to discuss.
I think the most, right now, the most important thing is to get this document done
Agreed.
and approved by this commission, and then we can start looking at where does it need to go afterwards. After today's meeting, I would love to have said June, but I'm really now worried with this whole thing with the reduction rule going on.
Yeah.
That may force things out a bit, because if anything, boy, do we need to focus on that.
Yeah, we may need to do this in July.
We may need to do it in July, but I would like to probably offer to you within 2 meetings, we should be able to close all of the issues that are floating there. And then it would be just staff pulling together all the prerequisite pieces into a final document and reviewing that for it. It's ready to go, and then we can take it from there. But I'm not unconvinced that we can't do that within two sessions. And like I said, if I had my druthers right now, it would be June and July, but today has forced me to think along a whole new lines. But we'll see where we go. We'll see where it takes us. This, depending upon how next month builds out as well too. So I would suggest go back and start looking through your stuff one more time, just to get a feel for it. And as Leslie said, there's really only 3 elements that we need to really ratchet down now. What's our, and not in any priority, what's our name, what are the term limits, and how do we do a transition phase to it? And I think
can
you-
you send out like a kind of a
She is.
refresher?
Yeah.
Thing.
I asked her to do that,
Right.
and just time wasn't available this month under which to do it. Between town meeting and vacations and everything else, so that's where we targeted June instead, but this was to just make you aware of what the situational status was with it. Questions, comments? Was there, Dawn, hi?
Hi, are we still making sure for all of the meetings when this is discussed that the proponent of the article that passed at town meeting is invited to collaborate on this? Because if she wasn't made aware of this discussion, she should be for the next ones. Just because it would be ideal if something went up to the state legislature that had support from all.
Okay. What?
I would say I did not speak with her or email or communicate with her about today, because this was just a quick update.
Right, I didn't,
If the commission wants her to get a formal invite for
You
whatever
know,
meeting.
you
It's
know,
on the
here,
agenda.
let me, go ahead, but I also want to chime in on that as well too.
I've had some interactions with her and the response I got was a little snippy, but I think that we should reach out. It's just disheartening when someone says, well, I didn't know I needed to be invited when I mentioned it to them. So I think we reach out and say, this is what we're discussing. We'd love your input. And and I just think it's probably the right thing to do. Yeah.
So we don't need any action on that.
Oh, there's no action to be done
Okay,
on it.
all right, very good.
Yeah. Mr. Singh. Hello? Hi. Hi.
Is this a?
Did you have a comment for us, Mr. Singh? Your hand is raised and we see that, but we're not getting any audio. You may need,
I think we might have a first bomb of 24.
that's
First one.
possible. All right, we're not getting any audio from you. You may need to reboot, but we unfortunately are also going to move along here as well.
So, gee.
Okay. Anyways. Pardon? Oh, is he rejoining?
Maybe he's real for sure.
Maybe it's Noah.
Let's we'll hold for a second. I mean, we're outside of the public comment phase.
All right,
Gotta
so
hurry, Barry, because Nat doesn't look too good. He needs to eat.
what do you
What?
say?
He's fading. You don't look too good.
I'm
You were like Max Headroom. It was kind
getting
of like
used
hard
to
to
this
follow
again.
you in
It's
the end
not
there.
easy.
Anyways,
He needs nourishment.
he needs nourishment. He's a growing boy. We love you. So other committee reports will always be on here just as a tickle list. Just because you see the committee and or your name associated with it does not mean you have to comment. No comment is just as adequate. So, does anyone have anything under committee reports?
The first is to say the Rural Policy Advisory Commission meeting that was supposed to be May 10th was canceled. It wasn't posted properly, so we're looking at rescheduling for May 31st.
Great, thank you.
I'll go ahead. After
Yeah.
The public shaming that you've given us by mentioning our names here. Affordable Housing Trust.
You're gonna have to explain that to me
The
afterwards.
public shaming. Affordable Housing Trust, I think I've served on it for 5 years now, and I think one of the most exciting programs that we put together is the restriction buy down for year round. The select board approved it in their last meeting as a pilot program. I think we've got a lot of work to do on it still, but I'm excited about it. I think it's a very good tool that we'll use going forward in the future. That's my update.
And can I ask a question about that?
Yep.
Is that all the approval that's needed? for this?
Yeah, so to
Or is
not
it-
get too complex about
Yeah.
it, but right now, it's tied to the affordability matrix, and I think going forward, we're hoping to put in a home rule petition that would free us from that and get us out of.
That 240?
Exactly,
Okay.
and I think it'll be a more productive program then, but this is a good way to start.
Great.
Okay. All right, that's good.
And the only thing I'm gonna pro off to from the capital program committee is we would traditionally start our work somewhere around September. The town is now asking us to start engaging as early as the beginning of July. Once the new financial period opens up for the year. So that means we're gonna be working through the summer and stuff. Oh, yay.
It's
But that's okay. It'll give us more time.
Capital is a great committee.
It is.
It's so busy
Oh,
though.
it is busy too.
And it's crazy, the meetings, but
Yeah.
it is really good.
Yeah.
You learn a lot.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, anything else that is before us at this? Oh, yeah, there is an at-large seat. That advertisement is set for June 17th. Is that correct, Leslie?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have a quick announcement.
Yeah,
It's
please
really
go.
Only probably of interest to planning board members, but I just want to remind the planning board members that you have a joint meeting with the select board on Wednesday at
Correct.
5:30 to appoint a new member.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else out there? I know you guys love hanging out.
For 1 year.
You know, maybe we should do wine and crackers next time and make it a little bit more fun.
Pizza
But
like the
anyways,
HTC.
huh?
Pizza like the HTC.
All right.
Don't give me that look. I prefer sushi.
So would
Mr. Chair, I might come over there in person if you had pizza available.
Oh, is that what it's gonna take to get you here, Mike, huh?
If you have sushi, I might stay the night.
Hey, there we go. All right, well, we'll keep that in mind.
Are they open now?
All right.
Right across the street.
Yeah, and don't forget, food, what is it? The Old Foods. Does
Yeah,
that.
Shangri-La, you can get pizza and sushi in the same order.
There you go.
Damn straight. All right, everyone, I'll take a motion to adjourn. If we're
So moved.
Second.
Names.
Bird in that.
Burn that, yes.
Okay.
I'm glad someone else is filling my role.
Sorry.
So, roll call vote one more time, just because we love doing this. Mary Longacre,
Aye.
Seth Engelboard,
Aye.
Bert Johnson,
Aye.
Don Hill Holgate,
Aye.
Christina Jelemy,
Aye.
Wendy Hudson, Joe Topham,
Aye.
Dave Iverson, Nat Lowell,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye as well too. Thank you, everyone. And I appreciate your time too. There's been some rather complex issues before us today, but I think we're at least weathering ahead and trying to make some good momentum here with these things. So
Yeah.
it's really appreciated. Thank you for your precious time and energy.
Remember to vote early and often tomorrow.
Oh, you Boston boy, you.
Yeah.
That's what they
That's
do
a
in Boston.
Chicago thing. That's a Chicago thing, not
I don't know,
Boston.
you gotta shut them off now.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Oh, so something new.
Hold on.